We are back. I'm sorry for leaving. I just been thinking about stuff and I had to get some stuff through, you know. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna watch the debate or the CNN live thing for a minute.
John King just read, preparing to come over here. He said earlier
I'll
he
make
had no
more
speech plan.
videos
We'll see
later,
what he says
just
when
know
he's
that.
here. Kristen Holmes, we've been watching all of this. And obviously the Trump team has been watching the breakdown here of how he's been doing with certain demographics and how he's improving from where his standing was actually in 2020, certainly in 2016.
Yeah, and we were told that that was what they were seeing in internal polling. But of course,
Hey,
given what we were seeing and the people we were talking to on the ground, we had to wait and see how it played out. Now, I do want to add. Dinner, they had giant screens, but the plan was always that if Donald Trump was going to come over, they were going to bring those members that were there at Mar-a-Lago over here. And I am told that currently those members are being bussed over here, meaning that Donald Trump's arrival is likely imminent. Now, all of those members are obviously going to have to be in place. As we've reported, it's kind of sparse here. There's not a lot of people. They're expecting over 100 people to be bussed over here. Those people are going to have to be in place before Donald Trump takes the stage, because these are going to be some of his biggest fans. They're going to want to fill the crowd here. But now they're coming over, so that gives you a little bit of a timeline of when we see Donald Trump moving from Mar-a-Lago to here. As we know, this room is about to fill up pretty quickly, probably within the next half hour.
Yeah, and of course the big question is what he's going to say. Obviously, he wouldn't come here likely and not take the stage. That's behind us. It's already a room that's filled with his supporters. We'll be waiting to see what they say. Jake, obviously something that we've been watching closely, as ever since a few hours ago when those Virginia numbers were coming in, that was what first gave that sense of confidence to the Trump campaign, and obviously that has only continued to grow ever since seeing the calls in North Carolina, how well these Republican Senate candidates are doing also, and those numbers there in Pennsylvania. Jake.
All right, Caitlin, thanks so much. As we prepare for what we think is going to happen, Mr. Trump coming out and speaking, it is a good moment for us to take a measure of where the night is at this moment. We're still, of course, waiting to call several of the battleground states, 6 out of 7 of them. But Chris, right now, I think it's fair to say anybody watching would rather be Donald Trump than Kamala Harris at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if he declares victory, he hasn't won the race yet. There is still a potential path to 270 electoral votes. None of the blue wall states have been called. If he says the trends are looking very good tonight, you can't argue with that.
And I'm going to go to Jake for a major projection.
That's right. We have another major projection for you now. And CNN can project that Georgia will go to Donald Trump. Georgia, a very highly contested battleground of 16 electoral votes. This is the second of 7 battleground states that we have called, and both of them have been for Donald Trump. Let's take a look at what that means for the electoral math. Donald Trump right now has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris right now has 182 electoral votes. There are 270 needed to win. As of right now, CNN is not ready to project who is going to win the presidency, but I'm sorry for so rudely interrupting. Donald Trump has now been projected to have won the second of 7 key battleground states, with 5 more to go. And obviously, the blue wall states, as you were saying, are crucial.
And this is a flip, because in 2020, Joe Biden won. Now, despite the fact that Donald Trump tried really hard to find those 11,000 plus votes, they weren't there. And this time around, the projection that you just made is that they are there, plus, who knows however many votes there are. So this is even more evidence why we heard the Harris campaign manager, Jenna Malley-Dillon, say to reporters maybe an hour or 2 ago that the Sun Belt is basically gone, and they're looking at the blue wall, and they're still insisting that it is possible. But this is, again, A very, very bad news for
Yeah, I mean, we went into the night with a lot of people talking about a potential realignment with both parties. Who would be the mix of people in each coalition? But it's actually looking pretty close to what we know in the past. You have white women voters with no college degree going for Trump in our exit polls. Similarly, with Latino men also going very heavily for Trump in our exit polls. So there's a sense that, like, people did not necessarily go into the ballot box and secretly vote for someone else. The people who in the past voted for Trump came home to Trump.
You know, people will be going through these exit polls and the analysis and what worked for Trump and didn't work for Harris. On gender, back in 2020, Biden won women by 7 points more than Trump won men. This time it's
Does anybody look at, like, the vice president of, like, who she's bringing in with her, if, like, she goes, or who's Trump is going with, or do we just care about Trump or Kamala Harris? Because I know Waltz is Kamala's. So I know, like, Waltz is Kamala, and I forgot Trump. Give me a second, chat. I'm sorry. Red. So, like, does anyone pay attention to, like, who they're bringing into office, like, whatsoever? Or, like, are we just freeballing it?
Jamie, my apartment was robbed last night. If only Progressive had renter's insurance, like their home insurance.
That way we could bundle our cars and get the same 24/7 protection.
Totally.
Totally is the best word ever.
Totally.
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 Totally, dude.
Totally.
I got big plans. But anytime you're doing something illegal, anything can happen.
Yeah.
Moonshiners, rivalries blow up. Tuesday at 8 on Discovery.
Every weekday morning.
Here are the 5 things you need to know to start your day.
Get the news you need.
How about this for an earnings call headline?
In 5 minutes or less.
Bravo!
CNN's 5 Things with Kate Baldwin. Now streaming on Max.
Valia Harkonnen, you are the strongest among us.
Without spice, the great houses would feed me to the world.
The troubles are far greater than just Arrakis.
Dune Prophecy, streaming exclusively on Max.
The world ain't set up for the honest man to succeed. America's a hustle.
It'll eat you alive if you let it.
This one being that streaming.
The Penguin, streaming exclusively on Max. The ultimate bundle just keeps getting better.
Whoa. Join me.
I am back, baby! I'll be calling the shots. It's just the beginning.
The Disney Plus Hulu Max bundle.
It's time that we go back to Tennessee. Nashville, the hot market. Oh, okay. This isn't fitting 10 kids.
No.
I want to make this the perfect home for them. Look at this.
Christina in the Country, season premiere Tuesday at 9 on HGTV.
I can't move again.
You've gotten used to chaos. We can get rid of that.
Don't sell.
Oh my gosh, is this our house?
When leaving just isn't an option, the brothers are here to help.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Don't Hate Your House. Series premiere next Wednesday at 9 on HGTV.
I love that, dude.
For 30 years, I've been saying publicly what people are saying themselves. I have enough money. I could just shut up. But you know, I can't.
Carvel, streaming starting November 14th on Max.
5 Good Things. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Chasing Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
It is election night in America, and let us bring you back to where we are right now with 270 electoral votes needed to win. Donald Trump is in the lead with 246. Kamala Harris is at 182. There are still 5 battleground states that remain uncalled by CNN. Let us go and look at where they are. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead with 50.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 48.1% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 165,000 vote lead. Let's go to Kamala Harris headquarters right now. Let's listen in.
Good evening, HU. I want to say good evening to all of the Harris campaign, the campaign family. Thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in the promise of America.
Harris HQ.
We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken.
Messed up.
So you won't hear from the Vice President tonight.
Oof.
But you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation. So thank you. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you.
I came over there for Kamala to come out.
And go Harris.
They came there to see Kamala Harris speak.
Cedric Richmond, top advisor to Kamala Harris, used to be top advisor to Joe Biden in the White House, basically telling people at Howard University, where Vice President Kamala Harris was going to have her celebration party, theoretically, that Kamala Harris is not going to come out tonight. She will come out tomorrow and address the nation, which I guess is what we could expect, given the fact that we're not going to know definitively this evening the results.
Into Howard University when there's a big crowd, that is not the sound of a big crowd there. That is not celebratory mood, and I think that was a tough kind of coming out conversation for Cedric Richmond.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 2024 version of the Javits Center at this time. I'm not saying that it's going to end that way, but at this time, it's feeling like it's too early, and the senior person comes out and says, everybody go home and we'll see what happens, and we will see what happens when we get the rest of the votes. But
in the immortal words of Bob Dylan, you don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind is blowing.
Right.
And this very much felt, I mean, you know, we talked before about whether this felt more like 2020 or 2016. This felt so much like the Javits Center, and specifically her campaign chairman, John Podesta, came out at almost exactly this same point 8 years ago and made almost exactly that same speech. And the next day, Hillary Clinton came out and conceded. Now, again, he is not at 270 yet. She has not lost this race, but you don't have to be a weatherman.
Right. And just to go over where we are right now, so there are 7 battleground states, and we have called, CNN has called, projected that Donald Trump will win 2 of them, North Carolina and Georgia. So of the 5 that are remaining, there's Arizona. Trump is in the lead currently with 0.72% of the vote. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is in the lead with 2.6% of the vote. Wisconsin, Donald Trump is in the lead by 3.53% of the vote. And then there's Michigan. Donald Trump is in the lead with 6.12% of the vote. There's also Nevada, which I don't see on that list there, and I haven't committed it to memory, but there wasn't enough really percentage of the vote that had come in yet for us to be definitively saying anything. In any case, the point I'm trying to make is, of the 5 battleground states that are outstanding, Donald Trump is currently in the lead in all 5 of them.
And in a place like Nevada, the demographics are something that is more favorable to them. That's an electorate that has more male voters, more Latino voters, and those are 2 groups we're seeing who are leaning towards him.
And I just want to go back to, even though we don't know where the blue wall states are yet, we're still waiting for votes to come in, some of the underlying themes that we are seeing that, Audrey, you were talking about a little while ago, that I think it's important to go back to. One of the things that we started out this evening with was about the women, the question about whether or not women were going to come out for Kamala Harris, whether or not men were going to come out for Kamala Harris in a post-Roe world on that issue. And if you just look at, for example, suburban women, they, according to the national polls, they went for Trump.
It seems like abortion was not the animating issue it was the way it was right after the Dobbs ruling. In so many of these exit polls, I'm seeing that the economy, the people who were most upset, listed themselves as angry or facing severe hardship. Those are the people who really went for Trump.
Yeah, I have to confess that I always thought in the last week or 2 of the campaign, this idea of trying to appeal to secret voters was something of a risk. Anderson?
Jake, thanks very much. This is the first time we've all talked. David Axelrod, what do you make of what we've seen?
Look, I think that this was a race that was very, very close in the polling. And for the longest time, including up until last night, I and others said we had notions, we had feelings, but we weren't going to make any predictions. And the truth is, we're sitting here tonight and we're waiting for the 3 states that can determine the race one way or the other to render a verdict, and they're close. And she's right to wait to have those votes counted. But what was very clear watching the night unfold is that rural areas voted for her in significantly less numbers than, or percentage-wise, than they did for Joe Biden 4 years ago. And she could make up the difference in some of these suburban areas and the cities. And I think the discussion that John King had was very pertinent. I care deeply, more than I can say tonight, about democracy and what it means. I've said it a million times, I'm the son of a refugee. And I revere this country, and I'm so grateful for what it's given my family and everyone else. But part of democracy, and this is my major difference with Donald Trump, part of a democracy is to honor the will of the people, to honor its institutions. I imagine that that's what the vice president's going to do when the final verdict comes in, if it's not a positive verdict. And I think there is a message in that. Yeah. There is a message in that. And I think it's an important message.
I think the reality is Kamala Harris faced tremendous headwinds heading into this. I was riding on a bit of a vibe, in a sense, in the final stretch because she did feel like she had energy. But the fundamentals have been against her from the outset. Biden's unpopularity was dragging her. She had opportunities to create distance with him, and I think chose not to. I think it's a respectful thing. You don't want to throw your boss under the bus. But the reality is Donald Trump was going to blow Joe Biden out of the water, and she needed to create that distance. There's also just some fundamental shifts that I think are happening, a realignment with the parties and within the country, and I think we need to be more in tune with them. This could end up being the most diverse coalition that ends up possibly electing Donald Trump, and we need to hear about why that is. It's the issues of the economy, borders.
The way this is playing out tonight, right, I think we need to recognize that over half of America feels very strongly about the things that Donald Trump feels strongly about, right? A secure border, the economy, crime. It might not be a perfect messenger, but the message resonates. And what Van we talked about this earlier about the check engine light, all those things are real. Democracy is a luxury when you can't pay your bills. And I think, there are a great deal of Americans tonight who are sitting back and saying, kind of look at it, that everyone, that they view as the elite and kind of sneering and saying, We told you so.
Okay,
we're not garbage. We're hardworking people. We believe in these things, right? People don't like to be talked down to. This coalition, this is Hispanics. Trump is crushing in Hispanics, the Hispanic vote in Pennsylvania, right? He's getting 50% of the women vote.
Lehigh County, he's up from 2020. He was at 45%. He's now at 48%.
Yeah, Allentown is. We were talking about how the Puerto Ricans would come out. He's winning those votes because you know what those people care about? They care about security. They care about economy. They care about those things around the kitchen table. So if the former president is going to be the next president, I think there's a lot of, America's going to have to sit back. He's going to win. It looks like he may win the popular vote, right? There's going to be a reckoning in America. The people are going to have to sit back and say, maybe some of these things Trump's espousing are not crazy. Maybe he's right? Maybe the Democratic Party needs to come back to the center if they want to be competitive again. There's going to be a part where they're going to say, we need to go further to the left.
Van?
I hear what you're saying.
I see that.
And I do see it differently because I'm thinking about the people who are not a part of anybody's elite who are hurting tonight. There are African-American women who know a little bit about being talked down to and know a little bit about having their economic dreams crushed, who tried to dream a big dream over the past couple of months. And tonight they're trading in a lot of hope for a lot of hurt. And they were hoping that maybe this time, one of their own could be seen as worthy. And once again, they're facing rejection. And that hurts. They thought tomorrow morning they're going to walk out with their shoulders back a little bit, maybe able to breathe for the first time and feel like they belong someplace. They did everything that they knew how to do. And it's going to be harder than it should be tomorrow for them to hold their heads up. And they're not the only people who are hurting tonight. If you're a parent of a trans kid, your child's face was used as a springboard to power for somebody. That doesn't feel good. There are going to be people tomorrow, we're going to be handing clothes at the dry cleaners to people who don't have papers. There are going to be people who are going to be cleaning your teeth tomorrow who don't have papers. And they're terrified tonight. And so it's easy to blow this off. Oh, look at the elites. They're going to get their comeuppance. It's not the elite that's going to pay the price. It's people who woke up this morning with a dream and are going to bed with a nightmare. And those people didn't deserve to be respected and held and talked to. Those are the people who are going to pay the price for whatever Donald Trump decides to do.
Yeah, but Van, how do we know that those people didn't vote? A large portion of those people aren't part of the people that elected Donald Trump.
Well,
right? I think that's a good part of the electorate. And the black women, the Democratic Party let those black women down. Not Donald Trump.
Dave,
we got to go. Okay. Let's go back to Jake.
All right, thanks so much. We're going to bring you Erase Alert right now. Let's check in with the states that we have not projected. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump still in the lead there. 51.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47.8%. Donald Trump with a more than 216,000 vote lead there with 92% of the estimated vote coming in from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Michigan now, the Wolverine state. Donald Trump, 52% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 46.1% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 203,000 vote lead with 61% of the estimated vote in from Michigan. Wisconsin, that's the Badger state. Donald Trump, 51.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 47.3% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 110,000 vote lead with an estimated 86% of the vote in from Wisconsin. Arizona now, Donald Trump in the lead there too, 49.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 49.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 12,242 vote lead there, a little bit more narrow with 52% of the estimated votes in from Arizona. We are awaiting more votes from the outstanding presidential battlegrounds as this race goes into the night shift. And we expect to hear Donald Trump speak to his supporters very soon. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay here.
How It Really Happened returns with 3 new episodes.
There is no case that is too cold. We instantly recognized that our world forever changed.
How It Really Happened. New episodes starting Sunday, November 17th at 9 on CNN.
What he was in the 90s has had a great deal to do with what he has become.
Grief isn't talked about much, but that's what my podcast is all about. Join me and my guests for a new season with new conversations about loss, life, and love.
All There Is with Anderson Cooper. Listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
November 17th, I'm venturing across the globe to see how these new weight loss medications are transforming lives and disrupting the industry.
These drugs are very effective, but they're not going to be for everyone.
Is Ozempic right for you? November 17th at 8 p.m. on CNN.
Valja Hakkinen, you are the strongest among us.
Without spice, the great houses would feed me to the worms. The troubles are far greater than just Arrakis.
Dune Prophecy, streaming exclusively on Max.
Election coverage continues. And we've got you covered like only CNN can. Follow every result. Follow every dramatic development. Follow the facts. Follow CNN.
For 30 years, I've been saying publicly what people are saying themselves. I have enough money. I could just shut up. But you don't. I can't.
Carver, streaming starting November 14th on Max.
5 Good Things. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Who should be the CNN Hero of the Year? Weigh in now. Cast up to 10 votes a day every day. Visit CNNHeroes.com.
Every weekday morning.
Here are the 5 things you need to know to start your day.
Get the news you need.
How about this for an earnings call headline?
In 5 minutes or less.
Bravo!
CNN's 5 Things with Kate Baldwin. Now streaming on Max.
I come back here every year. I'm addicted to it.
And we have a projection for you now. CNN can project that Kamala Harris will win the state of New Mexico. New Mexico, as expected, will go to the Democrat, Vice President Kamala Harris. New Mexico with its 5 electoral votes. What does that bring us in terms of the math? Let us look. Donald Trump has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris, with the addition of New Mexico, has 187 electoral votes. There are 270 electoral votes, as always, needed to win. Let's look at the states we have not called yet. In Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead there still, 51.1% of the vote, ahead of Kamala Harris, who has 47.8% of the vote. Trump leads with more than 214,000 votes. That's with an estimated 92% of the vote in. Michigan now, Donald Trump in the lead, 52.1% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 46% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 215,000 vote lead. That's with 62% of the estimated vote in from the Wolverine state. The Badger state of Wisconsin now, Donald Trump, 51.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.2% of the vote. Donald Trump, more than 113,000 votes ahead of Harris with an estimated 86% of the vote in from Wisconsin. In Arizona now, Donald Trump in the lead there too, 49.9% of the vote. Harris with 49.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 12,000 vote lead. That's with only 52% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. Still a lot of votes to count in Arizona. Nevada now, they've really counted a lot of votes. Donald Trump, 50.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump with a more than 33,000 vote lead. That is with 70% of the estimated vote in from Nevada. Last time we looked, it was only 2%. John King, look at that. Your buddies in Nevada reporting their votes there.
Well, last time it took a very, very long time. So if they're starting to get some in tonight, that's progress for Nevada. I just want to show this. This was a conversation you guys were having over the panel table the other day. Just on the importance of Pennsylvania as we're at this point now, where North Carolina and Georgia have gone for Trump. You see the yellow of the states still on the map. Now we project Alaska's going to come in for the Republican. If that were to change, that would change these paths. But there is no path
to 270
for the vice president that does not include the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So, yes, she needs to win all blue wall states to get there.
That would get her there on its own as long as she wins Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. But there's no way to get there without Pennsylvania, which is why that is absolutely critical that she win there. I just want to show you what I mean. Let's assume that she came back and won Michigan. She's trailing now. Let's assume she came back and won Wisconsin. She's trailing now. She's trailing here, and she's trailing here. Even if she won them all, if Donald Trump won that, he'd be over the top. And so, if she is winning this, she can afford to lose something else along the way. But because this is why we've talked about this for weeks, and that's why both campaigns spent more money in Pennsylvania than any other state in the Commonwealth by far. The 19 electoral votes, 19 versus 16, 19 versus 11, 19 versus 10. It just affects your path to 270 math in such a profound way. So as you look at where we are now, and you come back out into the latest vote count right there.
Can one of y'all explain to me in chat, does he mean, by the votes being like that, are they estimating what Kamala Harris is gonna have? Or no? I have no idea, dude. Let me replay it for you.
19 versus 8. Why? When there are still some votes down to be counted down here. I think when we get closer to 100% in Philadelphia, that's going to settle the math once and for all. It's improbable at the moment. Let's just be honest about it, but it's not impossible. So you keep it on the board right there, and you look 78% though. 78% estimated in Philadelphia. She's at 78%. Look at the 484. You come back here, 78% to 81%. 3 points in the state's largest city that is absolutely fundamental to Democratic victory, underperforming Joe Biden.
The favorite one is definitely Kamala Harris.
By 3 percentage points, and at the moment, more than 100,000 votes. We're not done with the math yet. That's it. I mean, you can find other places too. You can find. We looked through some of the blue-collar counties earlier, where she was underperforming Biden and Trump was moving up. We can go back and look at that again, if you want. Just Trump outperforming 2020 by 3% or more. This is significant. It's happening mostly in counties he's winning anyway. But she's overperformed a little bit in Chester County down there, which, again, 8-10 years ago was a Republican county. But where is in Bucks County, which he's right at it's currently flipped to red. But a lot of it's out here in places where Donald Trump already runs strong. He's running stronger. And that's critical. One of the questions coming from the campaign was, well, Donald Trump got 2016 phenomenon, more votes in 2020, but he lost. Are there really more Trump voters out there? Well, yes, apparently there are. And you see them right there, and you see them in other states as well. So there's Pennsylvania. Jake, I just want to go through these quickly to see if the math has changed. 63%. We've been stuck there for a little bit. You come down here. Again, when you're looking at 224,000 votes, Joe Biden won Michigan by 154,000 votes. Donald Trump's at 224,000 votes. And so you're looking and you're saying, where? Where? Is it possible? Well, the only place you can get that many votes is Wayne County. They're at 24%. So you see, she's at 58% right there. Donald Trump at 39%. Again, you want the conversation that is going to start once these states are called, assuming we stay on the trajectory we are on, which the trajectory we are on, not there, we're not the finish line, but the trajectory we are on is an overwhelming Donald Trump victory in the Electoral College. The possibility of flipping back all 3 blue wall states. But even if he loses Michigan, look at that. That's going to be a conversation in the Democratic Party. How's that happening? How is Donald Trump getting 30% in up to 39%? How's that happen? How did he get 30%? The Democrats were already debating how did he get 30% 4 years ago. If that number holds and Donald Trump's above 35%, close to 40% in Wayne County, Michigan, the Democratic Party has a big conversation on its hand. When I started doing this a very long time ago, it was about the Reagan Democrats in Macomb County. Now it's going to be about the Trump Democrats everywhere. Including black men in Wayne County. There'll be people saying it's the Arab American vote. Young voters didn't come out. The analysis will start as soon as we're done getting someone to 270. But that's a huge problem. And you see it again here. Again, the foundation of the Democratic Party is urban America, and then the close-in suburbs. That's where the math is. And that has allowed Democrats, allowed Joe Biden to withstand all of that. Donald Trump's phenomenon in rural America, where he's not only winning those counties, but the math is up. And this time again, he turned out more voters. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is Milwaukee County, the city and the suburbs around it. But the vice president's at 66%. That looks impressive, except when you go back 4 years ago, and you see the president of the United States was at 69%. And so in place after place, especially starting in the foundations, Anderson, the building blocks of the Democratic Party, which is urban America, she's having a problem. We're not done with all the vote counting yet, but she's underperforming President Biden from 4 years ago. In the close-in suburbs, you can find some exceptions to this, but in the close-in suburbs, she's doing reasonably well, reasonably close, exceeding it in some places. But Trump is doing better in urban America, a little bit better in some key suburbs in battleground states, and turning out even more voters in the red rural counties where we have seen the Trump phenomenon in 2016 and 2020. It's with us again in 2024.
Yeah. John, we'll come back to you. Caitlin Collins at Trump headquarters, where we expect the former president to speak.
No, Anderson. Obviously, we're waiting to see what this is going to look like because this is so new to the Trump campaign as well. They've been watching these numbers carefully all night as John King has been going back and forth on the magic wall, but they themselves obviously were waiting to see, were there any surprises in store? They were watching closely. The gut check of North Carolina and Georgia obviously came through for them. And now we are told Donald Trump is he is making preparations to head over here to the convention center. This is where the official watch party is. And Anderson, we saw aides preparing a teleprompter on stage, heightening the lectern and the microphone to make sure it's ready. So a clear sign that we do expect to hear from him. When that happens remains to be seen. And Kristen, obviously, as we've been looking at this, Trump is famously very superstitious. He doesn't like to, start planning things too far in advance, talking too much about who he'd put in a potential cabinet, much less working on a speech, which he said today he did not have remarks prepared.
And even the people around him were hesitant to put anything down. There were some conversations about potentially drafting something either way, drafting two versions of the speeches, but they were still hesitant to even do that. And a reminder that Donald Trump finished up his rally last night at 2:30 in the morning. When they got on the plane, there were some conversations about what tonight was going to look like, but essentially everybody was like, let's wait and see, let's go and see. Now, I am told that when Donald Trump gets here, it's not clear if he's going to go to the stage right away. We know, obviously, they have called North Carolina and Georgia, which were big wins for the Trump campaign. Whether or not they're going to wait for one more of those big swing states remains to be seen. We do believe he's going to be here imminently, that he's going to leave Mar-a-Lago, head over here. We obviously know that they've bussed over all of the people from Mar-a-Lago who have just arrived here. We've seen this room fill out. But how exactly he's going to handle this moment remains to be seen. We know what happened, obviously, in 2020. I am told he's in a very different headspace now than he was at that point, probably because of the fact that they are telling him that he could win this.
Yeah, you could sense that today when he was voting at his polling place as well. He was talking in more reflective ways about the campaign. He was saying he believed it was one of the best campaigns they've ever run, talking about in terms of just pure messaging. I mean, obviously, some of his allies would disagree from the candidate himself on that front. But one thing about this room tonight, obviously it's filled with his supporters who were here, who were invited by the campaign. A lot of his allies were also at Mar-a-Lago with him, people like Elon Musk, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Dana White. We've seen Senator Marco Rubio trickling in here. House Speaker Mike Johnson is also on the way. So it's also important to see who's going to be around him in
That's
this
going to
moment.
matter to Donald Trump a lot. It's going to matter to Donald Trump a lot who actually steps up and shows up here tonight, who left their races early before they were called or right after they were called to come to Palm Beach. And we were told that there were a lot of people considering doing that because of the fact that they know Donald Trump cares about loyalty. They were considering coming if it looked like the race was going the way that it currently looks like it's going. So we can likely expect more House members here that we've seen already.
Yeah, and we know family members obviously have been around him. We saw, I was told by someone that Barron Trump was with him in Mar-a-Lago earlier. Obviously, Melania Trump went and voted with him at their polling place just a few hours after y'all got back from Michigan from that early morning rally. Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, I think that's an open question. They do live down here, obviously, in South Florida, but they have not been prominent faces on the campaign trail.
And even during his trials, I mean, one thing to remember is that they came and saw him after he was convicted, but stayed behind closed doors at all times. They were up at Trump Tower. They never made an appearance with him. He has really done this campaign without any of their help. They've been with just Eric.
Yeah, obviously, Kristen, thank you. Jake, back to you.
Thanks so much. We have a major projection in the battle for control of Congress. And CNN can now project that Republicans will win back control of the United States Senate. We can make this projection because CNN projects Republicans win the U.S. Senate seat in Nebraska. the GOP picking up enough seats to reclaim the majority that they lost 4 years.
That's the first step of red that we got. First step. Now we just need other red, which is president. So I'm looking for him, to be honest.
For Democrats, one of the questions was whether or not these kind of brand name, long-serving Democrats would be able to kind of outperform the realities of their states, whether it's Jon Tester in Montana or Sherrod Brown in Ohio. And the answer is no.
Yeah, Sherrod Brown is a great example because he came to office in 2006 during a kind of blue wave, survived 2018. Like, he was always there for when it was more favorable for Democrats, and that was not this year.
I mean, let's talk about the significance of a Republican Senate if, and I repeat, if Donald Trump is elected president. It means that they can confirm without any Democratic votes any appointment he makes to his cabinet, to the government, to the Supreme Court, should there be a vacancy. It's an enormous advantage to a president. And at this point, we haven't talked about it much, but in the House, although that hasn't been decided yet, the Republicans have flipped 3 Democratic seats. The Democrats haven't flipped a single Republican seat. So there is the possibility here of a complete united Republican government with Donald Trump as the president and with a Republican House and Senate, which means that in terms of appointments, in terms of immigration policy, economic policy, environmental policy, you name it, he could have a pretty blank check.
So, for example, on immigration policy, which is something that we think that Donald Trump would, if he wins, want to enact something along the lines of the proposals he's made. Republicans have said, we passed an immigration bill, H.R. 2, which was a
compromise package.
It wasn't a compromise package. It was a tough immigration bill.
At least.
It was H.R. 2.
You're talking about the House.
Sorry. The House version is what I'm saying. The Senate version was bipartisan. The House version, when you ask Speaker Johnson, what have you accomplished? He said, well, we passed all this legislation, but it just died in the Senate because Chuck Schumer wouldn't even allow a vote on it, assuming that Republicans hold on to the House, we have no idea, but it's not crazy.
But you're getting into a level of detail that I think,
my point is just that
Donald Trump campaigned on mass deportations. So this
what I'm saying is he could do
was for.
That's what I'm saying. My point is whatever Donald Trump wants, if they have the Senate now, if they get the White House and if they get the House, if they keep the House, whatever Donald Trump wants will become law. There will not be the backstop of the Senate controlled by Democrats.
Did not want the backstop. This is what I'm trying to say. We may be looking at a map of voters who weren't looking to give him a backstop.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Not to get too sort of dorky here, but I think it is still possible, if he is president, that some big pieces of legislation could be stopped in the United States Senate because legislation at this point still needs 60 votes. But it is the cabinet who he's going to have in his, not just in and around his administration, but again, the bench, that is all regular majority.
Yeah, it's interesting when you think about it because the Supreme Court passed, they ruled on the Chevron deference and basically said executive agencies can't have the untrammeled authority to do what they want. It has to be passed by Congress. And you could end up with the Democratic minority. I mean, again, all of this is somewhat speculative. Democratic minority in the Senate being able to block legislation and the Trump agencies not able to enact it on their own.
Yep. Just one of many things that we would be talking about if Donald Trump does, in fact, win. We're not there yet. Jake, over to you.
Thanks, Dana. Let's bring you back to the key race alert and where we stand with the battleground states that we have not called yet. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead, 51.1%. Kamala Harris is 47.8%. Donald Trump has an almost 220,000 vote lead. That's with 93% of the estimated vote in from the great Keystone State. Michigan, Donald Trump up 52.4% to Harris's 45.8%. Donald Trump with a more than 244,000 vote lead in Michigan with 66% of the estimated vote in. In Wisconsin, Donald Trump, 51.2%. Harris, 47.1%. Donald Trump with a more than 120,000 vote lead with an estimated 89% of the vote in from the Badger State of Wisconsin. Arizona, Donald Trump in the lead, 50% to Harris's 49.1%. Donald Trump has a 16,000-plus vote lead with an estimated 53% of the vote in from Arizona. In Nevada, Donald Trump in the lead there, 51% to Kamala Harris's 47.4%. Donald Trump with a more than 37,000 vote lead with 70% of the estimated vote in from Nevada. John King?
You're looking at the map and we're watching and we're just trying to see. The only question really now is, well, the first question is, can the vice president win Pennsylvania? If she does not, Donald Trump is the next president of the United States. And then from there, if she wins Pennsylvania, Donald Trump still has other paths to 270. So for the vice president, your priority is here. And you'll notice all three of those states are red. That's the so-called blue wall. The blue wall is ruby red at the moment, not done counting the votes. So let's turn it off and wander through them, starting in your home state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Key thing here, these are close battleground states. Look at the size of Donald Trump's lead as we go through them. Right, Joe Biden wins this by 80,000 and change 4 years ago. Donald Trump is ahead with 93% of the vote in by 219,000 votes plus. So that's hard to overcome. When you're at 93%, and statewide so far you're getting 48% if you round that up. Do the math at home. She has to get well in excess of that, hugely in excess of that when you're at 93% to have a chance to catch up. Hugely, way overperform where she has been throughout the night. Miracles happen. So you look here at Philadelphia, you kind of come here. This gets pretty stunning when you go through it county by county. We're not at the final results. Maybe the end will look a little better than this. Maybe the vice president can come back. But again, you look at here, Donald Trump getting 21% in Philadelphia, the vice president getting 78%. You go back when Joe Biden won the state, Donald Trump was at 18, the president was at 81. And you're seeing this over and over again. You go out to Bucks County here, Joe Biden at 52%. If you round that up, Trump at 47. 4 years ago, you come back here. I said early in the night, if this stays red, Donald Trump will win the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It's still red. Not done, but it's still red. This is the blue-collar suburban area. Your cops, your firefighters move out of the city to get a little house with a patch of grass. It gets a little bit bigger out here when you move out, but look at this. It's just, she's at 48%, 49% if you round that up. The President of the United States was at 52. Again, it's a very competitive battleground county, but to win Pennsylvania, you want to be on the top end in Bucks County, and at the moment, the vice president is on the losing end. Then you move over here to Lehigh County. This was the big conversation, right? Both candidates there in the final days because of the Madison Square Garden event, the debate about is the Trump going to lose the Puerto Rican votes, not the Latino votes because of this. Well, at the moment, Harris 95%, so not a lot of room for this to change. 51% for the vice president. She's winning the county, but she's not winning the county again. Look at Joe Biden. Now, this is Joe Biden's birth state. He had a home field advantage, maybe. It was in a pandemic. Donald Trump was at his weakest, I guess you come out of that. So you can rationalize it away, but we do the math here. And the math is that she's running behind. That's 53% for the president. And once again, the vice president. So there'll be a lot of conversations about blue-collar workers. Is it sexism? Is it racism? Is it because she didn't break with Biden on cost of living issues? This is going to be the conversation if this map continues. So you come back out again and you look. Here's a place. This is Trump country, Pennsylvania, Luzerne County, right? But you always look at sometimes the margins with it, where the other guy's winning or the other gal's winning. You just want to cut into their margins in a close battleground state. Donald Trump at 60, the vice president at 39%, and you come back here, Joe Biden at 42%. That's the difference. The margins within some of these places, even where you're losing, you have to improve your margins. Where you're winning, run them up. Where you're losing, try to cut the other guy's margins up. And she simply has failed to do that across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I could go on, but the point is the point. And then there's this. Again, in a big state like this, a complicated state like this, this is just Trump country. 70% here, 51% there, a little bit more competitive, but 75% there, 73% there. That's how he does it. And you have to combat that and contrast that. And even in those counties, again, in most of them, Harris not matching where the president was. So that's the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You look at the popular vote when you come on out. Again, Donald Trump lost the popular vote twice. Even when he won the presidency in 2016, he lost the popular vote. He lost it by more than 7 million votes 4 years ago. At the moment, a lot of votes to be counted. At the moment, he's 5 million votes ahead in the popular vote. And again, you know Donald Trump would like that trophy. In addition to winning 270 electoral votes, which he's not at yet, he's on a path to it, but he's not there yet, he would love that trophy. We'll see if he gets it. Michigan, we're up to 67% now. This has been a slow walk. You're up to 67%. But again, 154,000 votes for the president 4 years ago. Donald Trump's lead is well in excess of that. 224,000 votes. You're at 67%. So there's more vote out. A lot of it is right here. This is essentially it. Just like I said, Philadelphia is it. If the vice president's going to come have some improbable mathematical comeback in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, it must be based in Philadelphia. That's where the most people live. That's where the most votes are out. The same for the vice president here in Michigan, only 32% in Wayne County. But again, this will be the conversation. If we get to the finish line and the result is as it is, look at Donald Trump at 41% in Wayne County. That's Detroit and the suburbs around Detroit. 30% in 2020, 40% in 2024. If Donald Trump has a 10-point gain in Detroit, that's Dearborn, that's Hamtramck, that's Wayne, auto factory, auto workers here, inner city Detroit here. That's going to be a giant conversation in the Democratic Party now, much like this was in the late 1980s when Ronald Reagan flipped Macomb County from blue to red. Trump has flipped it back. You see Trump at 57%, 58% if you want to round that up. Again, this will be the conversation after. If this race continues where it's looking right now, 41% for the Democrat in Macomb County right now, 45% for Joe Biden 4 years ago. So pick your challenge. Black voters in the urban area, cities in general, blue-collar workers in places like Macomb County, blue-collar workers in places like Luzerne County or Lackawanna County. You keep going on. She's underperforming where Joe Biden was 4 years ago. There can be many reasons for that. I would say one of them was a very effective Trump ad, what she said on The View when they asked her, what would you change? She said, not a thing. The Trump campaign, Trump himself, flawed candidate, although people are going to say, you all said he was a flawed candidate. This looks pretty impressive. But Trump's the ad messaging, the cost of living thing where she said, not a thing. She tried to amend that answer later, but they turned that around pretty quickly.
It was, without question, and we've been saying this all year, the most professional campaign that Trump has had in his 3 runs for president. I came over here because I want you to show me, even in the blue states, what's going on. Let's, like, for example, take me to New Jersey. All right, that's a state. I mean, just look at that. 51. It's with 80%, 88% in, so not all the votes in, but 51% to 46%. How did Joe Biden do?
5 points. 5 points better for Donald Trump. Look at him more than him. You know, if you're a Democrat in a blue state, you're trying to figure out what's happening to my party. You know, is it all Trump? And I mean, there's a separate fascinating conversation going because a lot of the people who are going to be in that Republican Senate with a President Donald Trump, if this continues to go where it's going, you know as well as I do, a lot of them don't like him. They wish he was not the leader of their party, but he is, and there's nothing they can do about it, and they know that. And so they're going to work with it. But again, so the Republican candidate for president 4 years ago got 41% in New Jersey, and the Republican candidate for president this time is getting 47% in New Jersey. There'll be all sorts of, oh, nobody spent any ad money there. Oh, nobody focused on the presidential race there. Oh, make all the excuses you want. That's a problem.
But it was a 16-point spread last time, and it's a 5-point spread now. What about New York? Take me to New York.
Come back out and come back in. The Empire State.
Okay, so she's up by 11 percentage points. Not all the votes in, 92%. So 11 points. How did Biden do?
Yeah, it's a lot more.
23.
23.
From 23 points to 11 points. So, I mean, it's not, and actually, you know what? Show me some of the counties. Can you go into like Queens and?
You can come down here and you can get into Manhattan here.
So Manhattan.
And Manhattan is not Donald Trump territory.
Right.
It wasn't then.
I mean like Queens, Bronx.
Now, you can wander around in here if you want to come over here to Bronx. So 27% for Donald Trump. Yeah.
83%.
Yeah.
So he made inroads in these outer boroughs as well. It's all about the blue wall as we wait for a final verdict in the battlegrounds of Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin, 3 potential deciders in this presidential race. We're expecting Donald Trump to speak any moment, but first we're going to squeeze in a quick break. We'll be right back.
President of the United States, after everything that we saw in this election.
Who should be the CNN Hero of the Year? Visit CNNHeroes.com to vote.
How It Really Happened returns with 3 new episodes.
2 guys in military uniforms come in up against the wall.
They had took the American embassy and took us hostage.
There are 6 capsules missing. There are 3 people dead.
It wasn't just about tampering, it was about evil.
New York City became so enthralled with this case.
Mother and son murdering people.
How It Really Happened. New episode starting Sunday, November 17th at 9 on CNN.
The world ain't set up for the honest man to succeed. America's a hustle. It'll eat you alive if you let it. Not that I'm complaining.
The Penguin, streaming exclusively on Max.
5 Good Things. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
November 17th, I'm venturing across the globe to see how these new weight loss medications are transforming lives.
Ready?
It's like a new start for me, basically.
I've made a lot of progress and I can't turn back now.
And also disrupting the industry.
Am I interviewing a future Nobel Prize winner?
Please go on. Do something about it.
But are these drugs a forever fix?
These drugs are very effective, but they're not going to be for everyone.
Is Ozempic right for you? November 17th at 8 p.m. on CNN.
Grief isn't talked about much, but that's what my podcast is all about. Join me and my guests for a new season with new conversations about loss, life, and love.
All There Is with Anderson Cooper. Listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Experience the CNN Magic Wall. Get live results, expert insights, and an immersive election experience. The Magic Wall. Find it in the CNN app today.
Chasing Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Most of them. But right now we are coming back from a break in a minute. And we are going to see Trump speaking to his biggest fan.
What he was in the 90s has had a great deal to do with what he has become.
Valia Harkonnen, you are the strongest among us.
Without spice, the great houses would feed me to the worms. The troubles are far greater than just Arrakis.
Dune Prophecy, streaming exclusively on Max.
Every weekday morning,
Here are the 5 things you need to know to start your day.
stream CNN's 5 Things with Kate Baldwin for the news you need
How about this for an earnings call headline?
in 5 minutes or less.
The battle for democracy. You learn something every day.
And the stories you'll want to share.
Oh my God. Lift off. It is awe-inspiring to see it when it happens. Bravo. We're in it together, guys.
CNN's 5 Things with Kate Baldwin, now streaming on Max.
He is the smartest son of a who's ever done this for a living. James was famous for winning races.
James believes that change wins.
It's the economy, stupid.
I ain't apologizing to no one.
The man is a two-fisted catcher.
I am saying publicly what people are saying to themselves. I have enough money. I could just shut up.
Carp, winning is everything, stupid. Streaming starting November 14th on Max.
It's election night in America, and forget the pundits and forget the polls. It is time to count votes. Let's take a look at where we are in the electoral math. Donald Trump has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 187 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. There are still a number of states that are outstanding. Let's bring them to you now. Pennsylvania. Donald Trump, 50.9% of the vote. Harris, 48%. Donald Trump with a more than 189,000 vote lead, with 94% of the estimated vote in the Commonwealth. Michigan, Donald Trump, 52.1%. Harris, 46.1%. Donald Trump with a more than 236,000 vote lead, 69% of the estimated vote in from Michigan. Wisconsin, Donald Trump, 51.3%. Kamala Harris, 47.1%. Donald Trump with a more than 123,000 vote lead, 90% of the estimated vote in from the Badger State of Wisconsin. Arizona, Donald Trump 50%, Harris 49.1%. Donald Trump with a 16,368 vote lead, with 53% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. Nevada, now Donald Trump 51.1%, Harris 47.3%. Donald Trump with a more than 38,000 vote lead over Harris with an estimated 71% of the estimated vote. I have two more I want to show you right now because, as you know, Maine and Nebraska award their electoral votes according to congressional district. Maine's second congressional district, that is the more rural part of the district, Donald Trump is in the lead there, 53.9% of the vote. Harris, 43.9% of the vote. Donald Trump with a almost 14,000 vote lead there in Maine's second congressional district. That's with just over a third of the estimated vote there. Then Nebraska, this is actually the congressional district number 1, not the more competitive one. But in this one, which has not been called yet, Donald Trump has 51.5% of the vote. Harris with 46.7% of the vote. Donald Trump with an 11,311 vote lead there. That's with 75% of the estimated vote in Nebraska's District 1. Nebraska's District 2, though, we should note, John, is actually the one that we're really keeping an eye on.
Keeping an eye on for the miracle trajectory for the vice president, if she can pull it off. She would need the blue dot, as they call it, the Omaha area, 2nd Congressional District, in addition to the blue wall. I just want to note, your eyes aren't playing with you at home. The so-called blue wall is deep red at the moment, and that is the vice president's biggest problem. She lost North Carolina and Georgia. She's losing Arizona and Nevada. We're not done there yet. But this is watch this map. Just want to circle one state. This is where we are now at 1:34 a.m. in the east. It might be 1:33 a.m. in the east if somebody wants to correct me. And that's 2020. There's a lot more blue there, but this is what I wanted to get to in 2016. This is Donald Trump remaking his 2016 map. And at the moment, if things hold up, we're not done yet out there. We got a long way to go, and sometimes Nevada takes days. It's possible he'll even add Nevada to the 2016 map. Now, we're not done, but this is a very impressive map for Donald Trump. I shouldn't have waited until 1:35 in the morning to do this, Jake, but as you know, we're on television. There's a great team of people here that you can't see, working the cameras and everything else. I have a great new media team that helps me with the Magic Wall. I want to show you one of the things the Magic Wall team, the new media team, came up with as we look at these votes. So your challenge in Wisconsin, right? The vice president has to turn around Donald Trump's pretty big leads. I shouldn't say pretty big leads. Big leads, 125,000. Wisconsin, 2 elections in a row, decided by 20,000 votes and change. His lead with 90% of the vote in is 125,000. That's a landslide in current day Wisconsin. We're not done yet, but our team has come up with a great way to look at this. So you're looking at votes over time, right? And what is the challenge for the vice president? Well, the vice president needs to narrow the gap, but go back to the beginning. Trump was ahead early. Harris got ahead of him. They kind of danced together for a while. And you see this flat line as we go. We've moved 1 a.m. You see 1 a.m. down here. The only way for her to win is to close those. Not happening. Has not been happening for a long time. That's Wisconsin. Let's move over to Battleground, Michigan. Same thing. She starts off way ahead. He comes up. They're competitive. He pulls ahead. And again, you're going, we cross past midnight to where we are now after 1 a.m. Pretty much a straight line across, meaning what? She's not narrowing the gap as more votes come in, right? Which you're trying to come back. It's pretty simple to look at home. So there's those two there. And let's come over to the biggest of them all, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Closer. You see it right there. It's closer. But she opened up a big lead early on. That's the early votes. You see what happens. Then essentially, welcome to Battleground, Pennsylvania. They are just running in a straight line across. But the red line has stayed on top all the way across. That's close, 51 to 48. But she, that's close. But she needs it to narrow even more. Just a different way to look at it is just to see you're trying to find the trajectory, and is there any possibility that it's going to close? And at the moment, there's no evidence that those lines are coming closer together. Closest in your home state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But again, Donald Trump at 51%, 191,000 votes ahead, with 94% reporting in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Just want to go back in time. At the beginning of the night, I said she's the variable. Her first time on the national ballot as presidential nominee. He was the constant. Not in my lifetime. 3 elections in a row, the same Republican nominee for president. Well, Donald Trump getting 50%, 51% right now in Pennsylvania. In 2020, he was a 49. In 2016, he was a 49. Trump was the constant, right? The question, Democrats always said Trump can't get to 50 in the battleground states. So you have to eliminate the third-party candidates and just get above him. Just get above 49, get 49.5. Well, Trump tonight blew that part up, at least where we are right now, because he's above 50 in Pennsylvania. He's above 50 in Michigan, where he was at 48 again. And you go back to 2016, 48. Trump was a constant, except for this year he grew. He grew, or he's growing anyway. We don't have the final numbers right now, but he's above 50 there. And then in battleground Wisconsin, I won't go back and forth again through it again, but he was a 47, 48, 2016, 2020, and there he is above 50% with, again, this state decided by 20,000 votes, 2 elections in a row. Donald Trump's ahead by 125,000. This state won by Joe Biden last time by 154,000 votes. A big win for the Democrats here. Then the Democratic governor wins in 2022. The Democrats may gain in the legislatures. Democrats think Michigan is growing in their favor. Donald Trump's 243,000 votes ahead with 69%. Still some room there maybe to see it happen. That's the one with the most outstanding vote. And Anderson, as I throw back to you, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, so critical to Trump cracking the blue wall, flipping the blue wall in 2016. His biggest disappointment when he lost it in 2020. Still won't admit he lost it in 2020. And now you see in 2024, again, it was an 80,000 vote win for Joe Biden last time. Donald Trump with 94% of the vote counted, Anderson, up by 191,000 votes. In battleground Pennsylvania, that's a blowout.
Yeah, it's amazing to see, as you were pointing out, in Wayne County in Detroit, he 10 percentage points higher than he ran in 2020. I mean, we're seeing that in county after county. David, what do you expect him to say tonight?
I don't know, Anderson. Listen,
he's going to be short.
There's going to be hopefully we see happy Trump. Happy Trump sells, right? Happy Trump's great for America. I think he'll thank the team, Susie, Crystal Savita, the people who've been there when no one else believed. Those folks believed. Susie has been on this team since so far back, nobody can remember. Nobody wanted to see Donald Trump. Nobody wanted to go talk to him. He was a pariah, and Susie was there, and this team has been there the entire time. You know, we've sat here, Anderson, through a lot of different trials and tribulations, literally, and 2 assassination attempts. And so I think he has a right at this point to be a little victorious on the stage and pump his fist and say, damn it, we won. Be a little happy. Take
the trials are probably over now, and the question is, will the tribulations be ours?
Can I just say, by the way, this isn't the outcome I personally wanted. I'm happy with the decision I made not to support him. But you know what? I think Americans are going to accept the results of this. I think we're going to move forward. I don't think we're going to be storming the Capitol and spreading lies about our elections, because that's what you do if you care about democracy. I do want to hit on one thing, though. Abortion, abortion, abortion. We thought this was, many people, I should say, thought this would be the driving issue this election.
Let me just say, if there was 2 assassination attempts on Trump's life before, he was, while he was still, going to be in there for voting, why do they think it's not going to be more? I hope it's not more, but as president, before, if he was his name president, and there's already been 2 assassination attempts on him. 1 really close to, and then 1 really close, but not, shooting-wise, That's really, really confusing. I don't understand. I don't think that, but yeah, let's get back.
It's going to drive women.
Because he
1, 2, 3, 4, 5
instigate what we saw on January 6th. That's why he's been taking what he's been taking. These are things of his own making, but that's in the past now. The people have made this judgment. The question is, what does he do now? And one of the things that has not been apparent is the ability to actually put others first and put the country first and not make it all about him. You heard the whole discussion about he's going to remember who showed up and who left their campaign headquarters to be here and so on. These are not the instincts of a big leader. These are the instincts of these are selfish instincts. So, can he change? At 78, we'll see.
Why are you
just
saying
think
it's
that I'm still absorbing all this. It's a lot, and I think when he steps out on the stage, we see him as like, America's next president. The world's looking too.
Yeah.
If you're a soldier in Ukraine, looking at Russians being more and more aggressive, you're very nervous tonight. You're very nervous tonight. If you're a solar farmer in a red state trying to deal with this climate issue, we've had billion-dollar climate disasters. Your financing might fall apart tomorrow morning because you can't now count on the federal government being at the front lines of this fight the way that the Biden-Harris administration had put the United States government at the front of the climate fight. So you've got people all around the world whose fates are now in the hands of someone who can either be aggrieved or it can be big. He's usually not big. And so I think this is a shock. It's a political realignment for sure. The Republican Party can now claim to be a multiracial working class party. That is a shock. But the policy implications for planet Earth are yet to be known.
I mean, I think that's the real open question. So are we getting 20% tariffs? That's going to be devastating for the economy. Are there going to be mass deportations on American soil? That's what he ran on, and I believe it's actually the mandate the voters gave him.
So I think on the tariff things, as you see, tariffs are a negotiating tool, right? That's what it was in the first administration. It'll be in this administration. There are 350,000 criminal aliens here in the United States. I think it'd probably take 4 years just to find, locate, deport those murderers and rapists that are wandering around. The Biden Department of Justice acknowledges are out there. We need to get those folks off the streets. I don't think anybody in America is going to be complaining if we lock those folks up and deport them out of here.
Dave, he doesn't speak with that level of specificity when he talks about it.
I always hear that. During the Obama administration, they actually deported criminal aliens, more of them than were deported during the 4 years of the Trump administration.
We should keep rounding them up and kicking them out.
But the point is, what he says to get elected and we don't know. We just don't know because it's basically a vehicle for him. And the question is, does the country benefit?
We expect Donald Trump to speak any moment as we await more votes from the key battleground states. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We have right now at this hour, as Greg.
On the Chasing Life podcast, Dr. Sanjay Gupta goes inside the world of weight loss, the new miracle drugs, and what weight really tells us about our health. Chasing Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
It's like they don't know.
5 good things. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. Every weekday morning.
Here are the 5 things you need to know to start your day.
Stream CNN's 5 Things with Kate Baldwin for the news you need.
How about this for an earnings call headline?
In 5 minutes or less.
The battle for democracy. You learn something every day.
And the stories you'll want to share.
Oh my God. Lift off. It is awe-inspiring to see it when it happens. Bravo. We're in it together, guys.
CNN's 5 Things with Kate Baldwin. Now streaming on Max.
November 17th, I'm venturing across the globe to see how these new weight loss medications are transforming lives and disrupting the industry.
These drugs are very effective, but they're not going to be for everyone.
Is Ozempic right for you? November 17th at 8 p.m. on CNN.
10,000 years before the birth of Paul Atreides, we founded a sisterhood.
Valia Harkonnen, you are the strongest among us.
Without spice, the great houses would feed me to the world. The troubles are far greater than just Arrakis.
Let us rid the Imperium of these witches forever.
Dune Prophecy, streaming exclusively on Max.
He just slit his throat.
The world ain't set up for the honest man to succeed. America's a hustle.
No.
It'll eat you alive if you let it.
Not that I'm complaining.
The Penguin, streaming exclusively on Max.
Got 110 seconds.
Experience the CNN Magic Wall. Get live results, expert insights, and an immersive election experience. The Magic Wall. Find it in the CNN app today.
For 30 years, I've been saying publicly what people are saying to themselves. I have enough money. I could just shut up. But you don't lose. I can't.
Carver, streaming starting November 14th on Max.
What he was in the 90s has had a great deal to do with what he has become.
His house got swatted. His house got swatted.
Who should be the CNN Hero of the Year?
Found
Visit
all
CNNHeroes.com to vote.
How it really happened. New episode starting Sunday, November 17th at 9 on CNN. All there is with Anderson Cooper. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
They found a freaking tunnel. Holy! They found a tunnel heading to Michael Jackson's house. That's crazy, dude. Bow, 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 bow. Shot, 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 shot. There we go, and there. Shot, 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 shot. There we go, and there. Down. 5 seconds. 5 seconds. Wait, is it paused? No, it's not. Resetting it. Resetting it. Not sure if it's like going on my thing. It was. Okay.
Obviously, 270 electoral votes are needed to win. So let's look at those wins. Outstanding. Pennsylvania, outstanding in so many ways. Donald Trump has 50.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 48% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 193,000 vote lead there, with an estimated 95% of the vote counted in that great Commonwealth. In Michigan, the Wolverine state, Donald Trump 50.2%, Kamala Harris 45.9%. Donald Trump with a 253,000 plus vote lead, with 71% of the estimated vote in the great state of Michigan. In Wisconsin now, Donald Trump 51.3%, Kamala Harris 47.2%. Donald Trump leading by more than 121,000 votes, with an estimated 90% of the vote counted in Wisconsin. John King, those are the 3 blue wall states. They remain uncalled as of now, but Donald Trump leads in all 3.
Right, blue wall states uncalled, but the blue wall states are red as we get to approaching 2 a.m. in the morning, and we continue to count the votes. And you went through the margins. I mean, these are not insignificant margins. This is not 10 or 20,000 votes that a big county somewhere can change. 193,000 votes, again, just to remind you, Michigan was 81,000 votes. I mean, Pennsylvania was 81,000 votes 4 years ago and 44,000 votes 8 years ago. Donald Trump's lead at the moment is 193,000. So the math there is pretty obvious. He is overperforming his 2016 and his 20.
Okay, so guys, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna leave y'all with this. Okay, I'm gonna go record a video for like my backup video, my back video. And this is obviously my back live stream, but y'all need a better like back video or back live stream. So I'm gonna go record a video on VR. I'll have my mic muted, and I'm going to play the CNN thing. Got any questions? Put them in the chat. I'm gonna check the chat every 2 minutes.
2020 came in 70% for Trump, 69% for
1, 2, 3, 4, 5
for Trump. Modest sized county. It's in the middle. It's about 23rd of 83 counties in Michigan. And you see right there, so again, the counties, the more votes that just came in that drove the percentage reporting up, right? If you're Harris, trying to catch up before that gets to 99-100, the new votes that just came in helped Trump. 253,601 again in Michigan. This was a big win for Joe Biden in 2020, 154,000 votes. It's a bigger win at the moment for Donald Trump, 253,000 votes in battleground Michigan. That's a big deal. Then we move over to Wisconsin. We're at 91%. and Donald Trump is 120,000 votes ahead. That is 100,000 more votes than decided the state of Wisconsin in both of the last two presidential elections. It was 22 in one, 20 in the other. It's 120, 549 at the moment, 91% in. So you look again, is it possible? Are there Democratic votes out there? This is where they're missing the biggest basket. There's some good Trump circles here too. So if you look at that, again, I'm not going to say impossible. We have a decision desk that does that work for me. For you, I'm going to say that's improbable. You're just looking at the math, again, with a lead that big. And we'll see how it plays out. I do want to show something. We're looking at Donald Trump above 50% nationally. You're looking at Donald Trump at the moment winning the popular vote, which he has not done in his prior two runs for the presidency, by 5.1 million votes. So I just want to show you something. How's he doing that? Well, he's obviously overperforming what he did in 2020. That's sort of a simple duh when you think about it. He's winning, so he's obviously overperforming 2020. These are states where he's outperforming himself by 3% or more. That doesn't matter as much to me. What I want to get to, I want to get you to some of these counties. So you look at these places. Jake, we talked about this earlier. New York, you were looking at that. All throughout New England, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, he's performing better than he did in 2024. But I want to look. Remember the last couple of weeks of the campaign? Where's Nikki Haley? Why isn't she with him? Why is he demeaning the vice president, calling her stupid? Why is he beating up on Nancy Pelosi? Why is he so dark on immigration? Why isn't he trying to reach out to the middle, to the suburbs? Why he's going to repel people away? Well, guess what? If you come here, well, let me start here in Arizona. He's not winning. 60% of the population in Arizona lives in Maricopa County. She's leading in Maricopa County. Donald Trump is not overperforming in Maricopa County. But look where he is overperforming, in Republican areas. The big conversation has been, well, he got 2016, got more votes in 2020. A lot of Democrats saying there can't possibly be more Trump voters out there in rural America. Well, yeah, there are. He's over, smaller counties, Apache County here, only 6% in too. So more votes coming in from here. And then you come over here, Navajo County, and down here in the southern part of the state, Yuma County, 64% of the vote. Again, you think, oh boy, but that's double. That's almost double when you look at the raw vote count there. So how does he do it, right? So that's Arizona. You come up to Nevada. Again, it's not in Clark County. That's Vegas and the suburbs around it. But in these other places, that's the end of the campaign when everyone was obsessed about why is he only talking to his base? Well, he was talking to those people, and they turned out, and he overperformed in a lot of Republican counties. Most of the places he overperformed dramatically. This is by 3%. You'll see suburbs where that'll be something we're talking about in the days and weeks after too, by 1 point or 1.5 points. This is 3% or more, right? So when you look at this, don't think about California yet. Let the votes be counted.
So these are all the counties where he overperformed by 3% or more.
Over his 2020 number by 3% or more. And right now we're over 1,000. Counties and townships, mostly up here in New England, but in other places too, they use the word townships, not counties. So I'm not trying to, if you live in a township, don't take my county. But there are 4,600 counties and townships, and in more than 1,000 of them, he has overperformed. But the thing is, they're mostly red. There are some blue, and the Democrats have to study that. But the idea of, we always say, a Republican going to stand up to Donald Trump. Not looking at that, they're not, because he's increasing the vote that he already got. He's up over 2016, up over 2020, and now up over 2024. So you come in here and you look, and it includes Bucks County, very significant, close in there, and these other counties out here that Donald Trump likely wins anyway. So let's just bring this out now and come back to the real world.
Can I just make one more note about Bucks County? Can you bring us back to Bucks County? Yeah,
absolutely.
That was an area where Kamala Harris made a big play, even though it's a county that Donald Trump, that Joe Biden won. She made a big play there. She did an event with Liz Cheney there. She made a real pitch to the Haley voters you talked about. Let's check in with Pamela Brown at the voting desk, who has an update on the ballots left to be counted in Pennsylvania. Pamela?
All right, I'm getting some information for both Philadelphia and Bucks County, that Collier County right outside of Philadelphia, that right now Trump is slightly ahead. Let's talk about Philadelphia soon. We were just talking about the fact that 6,000 mail-in ballots came in there. I'm told by an official there in Philly that maximum left for mail-in ballots, the outstanding mail-in ballots is 31,000. But this official says, look, there's going to be some issues with some of these. The signatures don't match up and so forth, and it's too late for them to be cured. So that's the max amount out. Let's turn it over now to Bucks County. Again, this is a county that Biden won in 2020. It's typically a blue-leaning county just outside of Philly. I'm told by an official there are 56,000 mail-in ballots left to count out of 140,000 mail-in ballots cast there overall. And they're still waiting for 41 out of 304 precincts to report the results of in-person Election Day votes as well. I should note these counties across Pennsylvania, including Bucks, including Philadelphia, they're going to be continuously counting there until every mail-in ballot is counted. That's per the law there. Jake?
All right, Pamela, thanks so much. Appreciate it. I'm sorry to interrupt. Take me back to the places where Donald Trump is overperforming. Are there any places where Kamala Harris overperformed from where Biden did?
I'll show you that in just 1 second. I just want to put a button on what Pam was just talking about, in the sense that, so there's votes out there. Maybe Kamala Harris comes back, and that's close.
He's up by 11,000.
So maybe she comes back, but again, you're talking about the margins, right? He's winning by 4, right? If she comes back and beats him, it's going to be 50-50, 51 right there. Again, underperforming the president in places. So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
By 3% or more. At least in the county right now, and so you come in full county there. So there you see, but that's states, yeah. So in counties, in 58 counties, we just showed Donald Trump was over 1,000 counties of the 4,600 counties and townships across America. So if you do the full county level, there's where you see Harris at the moment. Again, there might be more out here on the West Coast, possible 1 or 2 more as they finish the count here. But in the states that matter, again, I just showed you all those Trump counties. In one county in battleground Pennsylvania, she's outperforming President Biden by 3% or more.
There were Biden stalwarts who argued that kicking him out of the nomination was a mistake. Now, I don't know that I buy that, because I don't know that the Joe Biden of 2024 is the Joe Biden of 2020. But what do you think?
I think that, so let's come out of this map to have this conversation, just to show where we are at the moment in this race. And let's turn this off here as well. After the debate, all of the energy collapsed. The debate you moderated with Dana, the Biden-Trump debate, the air came out of the Democratic balloon. Joe Biden was going to get blown out.
So you think it would have been worse because Minnesota and Virginia, New Mexico, Colorado, those would have been...
Would the Democrats have lost those in the end? I don't know the answer to that, but all of the Democrats would have broken with the president. It would have caused amazing dissidence in the Democratic Party. Donors were not going to give money. And again, I don't want to be disrespectful to the President of the United States, but have you seen anything? The Vice President of the United States looks like she's about to lose a presidential election. She was campaigning vigorously from the second she got the nomination up until the votes counting today. Is there any evidence on the table that the President of the United States could do half of what she did?
No.
A third of what she did. I mean,
no.
we could go. I don't want to be mean to the President of the United States.
No, and we saw over the last week him calling Trump supporters garbage, et cetera.
Yeah. I could tell you from my first trip 15 months ago, people were saying, "Where's the president?" I think one of the legacy conversations about this election is not just going to be the switch from Biden, but the 2 years before that.
Yeah.
You would travel and people would say, "Where's the president?" He was invisible because he couldn't do events, and he wasn't talking about his record and his agenda and trying to explain that cost of living stuff, trying to explain that, yeah, it sucks in a lot of places, but look around the world, the United States is actually doing better than most advanced economies. He was missing.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot said and told about that. Let's check in with Caitlin Collins, who's at Trump's headquarters, ahead of remarks that were expected by the former president. Caitlin?
Yeah, Jake, just to give you a reality check of where the Trump campaign has been watching this election day play out. They woke up confident this morning that ultimately their candidate was going to win, that Donald Trump would win this race. But when I was talking to them about what they thought the next few days were going to look like, one, they thought that this would go on for several days. They did not think that the numbers would be as generous as they are, as what the numbers have been coming in, as they have been reported. And they also had counseled Donald Trump that there would likely not be any kind of decision within the next 24 hours or so. Donald Trump himself was frustrated about that and was saying that he wanted to know what the outcome of this race was going to be tonight, and he said, Kristen, that he had not prepared a speech. And obviously, we are seeing now the Trump campaign in real time, as we've been talking to them, are adjusting to what they've been watching play out over the last 3 or 4 hours or so.
Yeah, and he's feeling really good. I talked to a number of people who were with him who said that he is ecstatic, that they had already said that they thought he was in a different headspace than when he went into 2020 when he was angry. He was watching those results come in. But as you said, he still couldn't understand why they weren't going to get the results tonight. Now, obviously, we're seeing a lot more of these states being called right now than even his own team anticipated. I was told that they were looking very carefully at Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, and they thought that maybe they'd have some idea by tomorrow what those results would look like. But as we're seeing those results coming in, there's so much more of that vote counted in these states than they even anticipated. So clearly that shifted their entire mentality around this, Donald Trump coming here and getting ready to speak.
Well, and so Donald Trump is in the building right now. I should note, we're waiting to hear from him. He has made his way over from Mar-a-Lago, about a 10-minute drive away. And you just think of, I was there at Trump's victory party in 2016 when he first won, and the entire room was shell-shocked after he won Florida, that he had actually won that election. He himself was stunned by winning, and it was kind of this surreal moment to see Trump and his family on stage as he was speaking. Then, of course, we all know what happened 4 years ago when he came out and spoke and declared victory that was not his and never would become his, which belonged to Joe Biden. And so I think the question for a lot of people watching now is what he is going to say tonight as he's going to come out. And the race has obviously not been called yet. What he's going to say when he gets on stage after seeing the numbers that are better than even they were expecting this morning.
Yeah, and we know that their team had not spent a lot of time coming up with any drafts for him. They were going to let Donald Trump speak off the cuff, but they were trying to come up with scenarios in which Donald Trump would not come out early. The difference between now and 2020 is that their internal polling was showing them a lot of these kind of numbers. Maybe not exactly, obviously, as you said, they were even surprised by how generous some of the numbers were, but they did believe they had a real path towards winning, unlike in 2020 when that seemed a lot more uncertain, which meant that Donald Trump went into this in a very different way. So the speech that he gave, obviously, in 2020, declaring victory when he did not win the election, we'll see what he says tonight, because we know that, again, he was in a very different place. The election is in a very different place than when he came out then.
Also, the access of influence around him is so different. Like 4 years ago, Rudy Giuliani was in the White House, intoxicated, according to testimony from other aides who were there, urging Trump to go out and declare victory. He's now down the riser from us this evening. He was not at the Mar-a-Lago event. But Donald Trump was surrounded by Elon Musk, we know, was at Mar-a-Lago tonight. There were photos of him sitting with Donald Trump as he was preparing to come over here. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is there as well. Dana White, Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump Jr., obviously Senator J.D. Vance, and those who are now, around him that has changed, including his own campaign managers, Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita.
Yeah, and one of the most interesting things about Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita is they've really managed at times to keep him at bay and protect him from his own instincts. Obviously, not all the time. Donald Trump can say and do whatever he wants, and he often does. However, for example, one of the things we saw just over the weekend when he was in Pennsylvania speaking and making incredibly inappropriate and insulting comments was Susie Wiles go stand at the buffer and stare at him. Now, we heard from the campaign that they were saying, oh, he was just trying to wrap him because he was going too long. But there's obviously a lot of questions as to whether or not it was because of timing or because of the fact that everybody knew what he was saying could potentially cost him an election that was such narrow margins. I mean, there was a lot of uproar, even from his allies, calling him afterwards on that. And that is something that Susie Wiles was very aware of. So his orbit has changed in terms of the people he is surrounding himself with, people who try to essentially stop him from his own instincts.
Yeah, and also, I think as they're looking at today and surprise themselves by how the numbers have gone, and some places, obviously they thought North Carolina and Georgia would be a gut check. Kristen Holmes will stay with you. Jake, back to you.
Thank you so much, and we have a major projection. CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is a huge achievement for Donald Trump and a huge bucket of electoral votes, 19 of them, for his path back to the presidency. As of right now, with those 19 electoral votes, added from Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is within spitting distance of 270 electoral votes. He has 265 electoral votes. Vice President Kamala Harris has 187 electoral votes. 270 are needed to win. John King, Donald Trump is within a hair's breadth of being reelected president.
Yes, he is. And let's just walk over. We'll look at where we are now, 265 to 187. And you're looking at this map. He's leading here. He's leading here. He could get a congressional vote there. There's another one at Maine he could possibly get. But if you just look out here, he is almost certain to get this. The state of Alaska hasn't voted Democrat forever. That would get him to 268. So you're at the point right now, Jake, where pick it, right? Just pick it. There's be one congressional. He could possibly win both in Nebraska. That would get him to 270, assuming he wins Alaska, which I think is a pretty safe bet. Then you just look at the map, right? Unlikely to get any of these over here. He could possibly get an electoral vote out of Maine, but he's leading here, leading here, leading here, and leading there, and he needs two. He needs two. So if he gets that one and that one, he's way up. And if he keeps holding these, then now that's where he was. When he won, he was at 304, 306. That would be 310. 310 if he sweeps. There's no guarantee he's going to sweep by any means, but he's leading in enough states right now. Plus, there's a couple other congressional districts on the board where he could pass. He could, emphasis on could, pass 310 electoral votes. You come back to where we are now, though. He's just in a commanding position, and let's do the math the other way, okay? Which is what gets interesting, right? This is now red in our count. There we go. That gets Donald Trump there. Here's the challenge when you do the math the other way. You assume that stays for the Republican. Let's just, for the sake of argument, big comeback for the Democrat. Big comeback for the Democrat. Democrat holds New Mexico, holds Minnesota. Excuse me for that one. Wins Wisconsin. Wins Michigan. You see this count? See this count? It's New Jersey. There's Connecticut. There's New Hampshire. Pop it out. What do you want to pick? You want to go state? Well, you could even go statewide. It's not going to happen, but let's say statewide. All right, you do all the Maine. You come back out. What does that get you? All right, so it comes down to this: if she wins everything. If she wins everything. The Pennsylvania is what makes Donald Trump. Again, we're not done until we're done, but Pennsylvania, in every path she had, any reasonable, plausible path to 270, included the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for the Vice President of the United States. So you get to a place now where as you come back over here, you're just looking at this map and you're saying, is she going to win Alaska? No one's going to Vegas on that one. So where is she in any of these? Do you start coming back? Is there any way to come back? 73% of the vote. It's 266,000 votes. Again, let's just look at the live outstanding vote. Let me move this up so you can see it better. Yes, the outstanding vote in Michigan is disproportionately Democratic, but there are a fair amount. See those big red circles? Fair amount of Republican votes out there. When you have a 266,000 vote lead and a map that looks like that of what votes out, again, I don't do impossibles, but I do improbables, and that's improbable. You come over here to Wisconsin, again, 119,000 votes ahead. That's come down a little tiny bit. It has. But it's a state won by 22,000 votes in the last two elections, and Donald Trump is ahead at the moment by 119,000 votes. And so, again, you're looking at what's left. You're at 92%. Sure, the biggest is here, but look at those. Those are modest circles for Republican votes as well. Essentially, in chess, she's blocked. Donald Trump's not across the line yet because we have more states to go through, but she is essentially blocked from getting to 270.
All right, stand by for a projection because CNN can now project that Kamala Harris will get that one electoral vote from Omaha. Nebraska gives its electoral votes according to congressional district. Kamala Harris will get one of them. Donald Trump will get another one of them. Of the five, let's look at the electoral map. Donald Trump now has 266 electoral votes because we just gave him one from Nebraska's, I think, first congressional district. Kamala Harris has 188 because we just gave her one from Nebraska's second congressional district. 270 are needed to win. Donald Trump needs only 4 more electoral votes in order to be the president. Dana?
I mean, Pennsylvania. If you look at those numbers, 266, 266, 4 more. And you just saw the math that John did, the path that the different paths that he put out there for Donald Trump and that for Kamala Harris. And
I'm still
again, we're not.
I mean, that map of where she did not perform, the like completely grayed out map
Right.
where she never overperformed Biden more than 3%. That's just rough.
I think there are two stories here. One is the burden that she faced, and to go back to the very beginning of the night when we did the right track, wrong track. 26% of the country thinks that the nation is in the right track. 72% think they're in the wrong track. And when it came to the performance of Joe Biden, it was 41% to approve to 58% disapprove. So she had an enormous burden. And you know, people are unhappy with the way the Biden-Harris administration has run this country for the last 4 years, and she did not succeed. I'm not sure it was possible for her to succeed in somehow positioning herself as an agent of change and distancing herself from Biden. There's another part of the story, though, we got to talk about, which is Donald Trump. The fact is that when you go back to January 6th of 2021 to today, it is an extraordinary comeback. He was a pariah when he left town on January 20th, refused to even go to the inauguration. There was the vast majority of members of his own party wouldn't be seen with him. He, you know, over the course of the 4 years, he proceeds to win himself back into the party, declares right after the tremendous defeat of the Republicans. There was certainly an unsuccessful showing in the midterms in 2022, wins a contested primary, and you know, this is his party. This is these voters.
It's not just his party.
What?
It's not just his party now, and that's
no, it's his country.
I mean, we have to be careful. We haven't called it yet, but Pennsylvania makes it extremely tough for Kamala Harris, and that's one of the things. I mean, the Trump side of this, one of the most extraordinary dynamics that we didn't necessarily see coming was that there still was a hidden Trump vote. Everybody who, even those who are big supporters of Donald Trump, would tell me, well, now they're loud and proud. People who are MAGA are very open about it, and so on and so forth. Except if you look at just these exit polls across these states and then nationally, there are so many pockets of formerly Democratic sort of coalition voters who have moved in an extraordinary way. I mean, Latino men, an 18-point swing for Donald Trump. He got 18 percentage points more among Latino men than he did in 2020.
Also, the campaign made this concerted effort to go after the never Trump vote, being out there campaigning alongside Liz Cheney, talking about having Republicans in the cabinet. It seems like that did not move people, that is still, in some ways, the never Trump community is kind of a homeless community, and it didn't help Democrats in this conversation in really any of these states. You don't get the sense that there was this vast, as you said, hidden vote that somehow pollsters missed or that people voted in secret. That kind of conversation, it just looks like it didn't pan out.
The fact is that the Trump campaign identified what the majority of Americans, and it appears that for the first time he is going to win the popular vote in addition to the electoral vote, what they cared about. That what they cared about is the fact that a box of cereal costs $9, that with Southern Republican governors shipping illegal immigrants north, that the whole migration issue has become a national issue, that you feel it in New York and Illinois and a bunch of northern states. The transgender issue was you know, this version of the cultural wars. And, you know, people were surprised at the fact that he spent more money on the transgender issue than he did on the economy or immigration in terms of advertising. And it obviously seems to have worked like gangbusters. So he really identified what the concerns of the majority of Americans was, and he played to it. And she faced this overwhelming burden that people just didn't like the direction of the country as it stood now after 4 years of Biden and Harris.
Yeah, well, and the big term of 2024, Anderson, is the manosphere, and we're all living in the manosphere now.
Dana, let's talk about some of, mistakes that were made, things that weren't looked at, or, obviously there's going to be a lot of finger pointing, there's going to be a lot of navel gazing. What stands out to you?
Listen, I'm still convinced that Kamala Harris performed better than Joe Biden would have tonight. I just think that there were so many of us, even those of us who didn't like Donald Trump, who after the debate performance couldn't in good conscience vote for Joe Biden for 4 more years. But there were tremendous headwinds here. I think there was a misreading, and I'm guilty of this to some degree, of a lot of people don't like Donald Trump, the man, but they felt better when he was in office. That's just the fact. It's the border. It's feelings around crime, feelings around the economy. And I think there was this very powerful ad, the Republican Jewish Coalition, that was all over the airwaves. A bunch of women sitting around, Jewish women, just saying, I can't stand him, but I felt like we were supporting Israel and we were stronger and we were tougher. And I think that resonates with people.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to engage in an autopsy prematurely, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion, not just about what happened in this campaign, but about when parties lose, it's an occasion for evaluation. And I think the evaluation is necessary.
Do you think the Democratic Party will do that?
I think I think it will do that, and it should do that. And I say, as I was saying to you guys before, I appreciate the Democratic Party because I think it believes in the use of institutions to help lift people up, and that we're a better country when you do. But the Democratic Party has become more of a suburban, college-educated, professional party, and it still feels allegiance to working people, and it still tries to fight for working people, but it approaches working people like missionaries, like Margaret Mead would approach the natives, and they come and the Democrats say, we want to help you become more like us. And the implication is that somehow if you work with your hands or work with your back, that you're less than. And these are the people who make our country go. And they deserve respect and dignity. Everybody deserves that. I think Kamala Harris tried to express that in this campaign, but it has to be more of an exercise over 90 days of a campaign. It has to be a really rethinking. We talk about, you talked, Van, about solar panels and so on. I don't even understand how people can question that we need to do something about climate change, given the catastrophes that are besetting us now. That said, if you make your living extracting fossil fuels and old energy from the ground, and you make a good middle class living that way, and you have to give that job, and people come to you and say, for the good of humanity, you're going to have to give up your good middle class job. That obviously doesn't sit well, and there needs to be an honest discussion about that. I think the Democratic Party has to do that. But let me just say one other thing, because I know I pushed one of your hot buttons there.
Don't worry.
Kamala Harris.
Me too.
Kamala, there'll be plenty of critiques and so on. Kamala Harris completely overperformed expectations. I think she handled herself with a lot of grace. I think she did. She probably turned in one of the great debate performances that we've seen, to the point where now, the guy who appears to be the president-elect, Donald Trump, didn't want to debate her again. And I think she tried to appeal to the better angels of people's nature. And so I'm not
I was just going to say, it was this moment that I realized America just elected the guy who said they're eating the cats and they're eating the dogs. So I'm just taking a moment to take that in. But go, Van.
Yeah, look, I think Kamala Harris had to do two things. She had to introduce herself and disqualify Donald Trump. She tried to do that by saying that she was on the economy, for the people, middle class, contrasting his kind of rich as hell kind of thing. She tried to do that. The border's an issue. She tried to be tough on the border and accused Trump of playing politics on the border. And she thought abortion was going to really make it work for her. She just got beat by, her own words.
Her own words from 2019. And also some
more recent ones as well. If you look at Trump's ads, Bidenomics is working. Whoever came up with Bidenomics needs to be put in the corner someplace. So then, because she doesn't separate herself, and then she says, not a thing comes to mind. So she doesn't separate herself from Biden. And then the whole transgender thing. So the ads just beat her to death on tying her to the economy, tying her to Biden, and tying her to weird stuff. Yeah. And so there was really never a great response. And then to your point, the ad that came out that was beating Kamala up around fear about Israel not being protected. There was never a response from the campaign on that, which I thought was a big mistake. Amanda Berman from Zioness had to raise money running her own ads trying to fight back alone. That didn't work. So, but listen, you tied her to the economy, you tied her to Biden, you tied her to weird, and it was not a good response.
I agree with everything you're saying. I just didn't want to engage in the autopsy before before we've called the race and before she dropped out. But one thing on that, the answer on I can't think of anything offhand about where she would differ with Biden was disastrous, and there's no doubt about it. The question is what motivated it, and whether she just felt she did not want to.
Loyalty.
Yes, loyalty. And so she should have just said, "Look, I'm grateful to him. I'm proud of many of the things we did together, and I'm not going to critique him. I'm talking about the future." Would have been a better answer, but it's easy to be on the sidelines.
I think, look, you can critique whether she's the correct messenger or not. I think the message, right? When you're selling a product that Americans don't want to buy, it doesn't matter who the messenger is. So I think the Democratic Party needs to sit back, talk about navel gazing, sit back and think, what were we selling? What are the American people looking to buy, right? Maybe it's not Green New Deal. Maybe people like driving. Listen, I'm just telling you.
You got to keep 330,000 clean energy jobs, and people are still digging about it.
I get it, but I'm saying
pretty good.
There's something afoot here. When you look at that map of the counties that she won by 3%, and there's not one of them in America. There's not one. There's a blank map. Yeah. There's something the Republicans are selling that people want. And the Democrats don't.
We're awaiting
not selling it.
Donald Trump's remarks at any moment as he's on the cusp of reaching the 270 electoral votes he needs to return to the White House. We'll hear from him ahead.
Jamie, my apartment was robbed last night. If only Progressive had renter's insurance like their home insurance.
That way we could bundle our cars and get the same 24/7 protection.
Totally.
Totally is the best word ever.
Totally.
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 Every weekday morning.
Here are the 5 things you need to know to start your day.
Get the news you need.
How about this for an earnings call headline?
In 5 minutes or less.
Bravo!
CNN's 5 Things with Kate Baldwin. Now streaming on Max.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta reports, is Ozempic right for you? Sunday, November 17th at 8 on CNN.
What he was in the 90s has had a great deal to do with what he has become.
We got potential here to build an empire.
This year, I got big plans. This better be big.
That ain't good. That ain't good, Josh.
Now my new worries begin.
Did you take our liquor?
But anytime you're doing something illegal, anything can happen.
Moonshiners, rivalries blow up. Tuesday at 8 on Discovery and Discovery Plus.
Talia Harkonnen, you are the strongest among us.
Without spice, the great houses would feed me to the world. The troubles are far greater than just Arrakis.
Dune Prophecy, streaming exclusively on Max.
Who should be the CNN Hero of the Year? Weigh in now. Cast up to 10 votes a day every day. Visit CNNHeroes.com. 5 good things. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Experience the CNN Magic Wall. Get live results, expert insights, and an immersive election experience. The Magic Wall. Find it in the CNN app today.
Chasing Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
For 30 years, I've been saying publicly what people are saying to themselves. I have enough money. I could just shut up.
But you know,
I can't.
Carvel. Streaming starting November 14th on Max.
The world ain't set up for the honest man to succeed. America
America's a hustle. It'll eat you alive if you.
Hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say.
Former President Trump obviously waiting for the Lee Greenwood song to end. You see Speaker Mike Johnson, Vice Presidential candidate J.D. Vance. Let's listen in.
Well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends in this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy? But it's a political victory that our country has never seen before, nothing like this. I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day, I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have. This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again. And in addition to having won the battleground states of North Carolina, I love these places, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, we are now winning in Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and Alaska, which would result in us carrying at least 315 electoral votes. But it's much easier doing what the networks did or whoever called it, because there was no other path. There was no other path to victory. We also have won the popular vote. That was great. Proud of her. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And, winning the popular vote was very nice, I will tell you. It's a great feeling of love. We have a great feeling of love in this very large room with unbelievable people standing by my side. These people have been incredible. They've made the journey with me, and we're going to make you very happy. We're going to make you very proud of your vote. I hope that you're going to be looking back someday and say that was one of the truly important moments of my life when I voted for this group of people beyond the president, this group of great people. America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's great. And the Senate races in Montana, Nevada, Texas, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, were all won by the MAGA movement. They helped so much. And in those cases, every one of them, we worked with the senators. They were tough races, and I mean, the number of victories in the Senate was absolutely incredible. And we did tele-rallies. We did tele-rallies with each one of them. And sometimes we did 2 or 3 and it was amazing to look at all of those victories. Nobody expected that, nobody. So I just wanted to thank you very much for that. And you have some great senators and some great new senators. And it also looks like we'll be keeping control of the House of Representatives. And I want to thank Mike Johnson. I think he's doing a terrific job. Terrific job. I want to also thank my beautiful wife, Melania, First Lady. Who has the #1 best-selling book in the country. Can you believe that? Oh, no, she's done a great job, works very hard to help people. So I just want to thank her. But I want to thank my whole family, my amazing children, and they are amazing children. Now, we all think our children are amazing. Everybody here thinks their children are amazing, but that's a good thing when you think they are. But Don, Eric, Ivanka, Tiffany, Barron, Laura, Jared, Kimberly, Michael, thank you all. What a help. What a great. My father-in-law, Victor, is tremendous, and we miss very much Melania's mother, Amalia. We miss Amalia, don't we, huh? She would be very happy right now, standing on this stage. She'd be so proud. She was a great woman, that one. Beautiful inside and out. She was a great woman. I want to be the first to congratulate our great, now I can say, Vice President-elect of the United States, J.D. Vance. And his absolutely remarkable and beautiful wife, Usha Vance. And he's a feisty guy, isn't he? You know, I've said, go into the enemy camp. And you know, the enemy camp is certain networks. And a lot of people don't like to, sir, do I have to do that? He just goes, okay. Which one? CNN, MSDNC? He'll say, all right, thank you very much. He actually looks fine. He's like the only guy I've ever seen. He really looks forward to it, and then he just goes in and absolutely obliterates them. Say a couple of words.
Wow. Well, Mr. President, I appreciate you allowing me to join you on this incredible journey. I thank you for the trust that you placed in me. And I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America. And under President Trump's leadership, we're never going to stop fighting for you, for your dreams, for the future of your children. And after the greatest political comeback in American history, we're going to lead the greatest economic comeback in American history under Donald Trump's leadership.
Thank you very much. He's turned out to be a good choice. I took a little heat at the beginning, but he was, I knew the brain was a good one, about as good as it gets. And we love the family, and we're going to have a great 4 years, and we're going to turn our country around, make it something very special. It lost that little thing called special. We have to make it so. We're going to make this so great. It's the greatest country and potentially the greatest country in the world by far. And right now we're going to just work very hard to get all of that back. We're going to make it the best it's ever been. We can do that. If we had to wait longer, I don't know. It was going bad, and it was going bad fast. We're going to have to seal up those borders, and we're going to have to let people come into our country. We want people to come back in, but we have to let them come back in, but they have to come in legally. They have to come in legally. Let me also express my tremendous appreciation for Susie and Chris, the job you did. Susie, come here. Come here, Susie. Chris, come here, Chris. Susie likes to stay sort of in the back, let me tell you. The Ice Maiden, we call her the Ice Maiden, right? Come here, Chris. Come here, Chris. Susie likes to stay in the background. She's not in the background. Come here, Susie.
This wasn't expected, but I just want to thank, obviously, President Trump for this journey. It was a great one, and he's a hell of a candidate, and he's going to be a hell of a great 47th president. And this team that we had, the best team, and, of course, even my boss, Susie Wiles, the best. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Susie. Look at her, she's shy. I've never seen her be shy before. Susie. They're great. Everybody up here is great. Everybody up here is very special. But the Trump, who did you say? Oh, let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon. Now he is. Now he's an amazing guy. We were sitting together tonight. You know, he spent 2 weeks in Philadelphia and different parts of Pennsylvania, campaigning. You know, he sent the rocket up 2 weeks ago, and I saw that rocket, and I saw it coming down. I saw it. It was, when it left, it was beautiful, shiny white. When it came down, it didn't look so pretty. It was going 10,000 miles an hour, and it was burning like hell. I said, what happened to your paint job? He said, we've never made a paint that could withstand that kind of heat. And, but I saw it come down and turn around. And it was, you know, it's like 22 stories tall, by the way. It looks a little smaller than that, but it's big. And it came down, and you saw that fire burning. And I'm saying, only Elon can do this. It must be an Elon. And I tell the story. I told it last night. I had a man on the phone. I had the screen muted, no sound. I was talking to a very important man, happens to be here. And that very important guy, one of the most important people in, I would say, the country, actually. But, you know, I was president, and now it looks like I was going to be maybe president again, so I figured I could ask him to hold. So I asked him to hold, and especially because you're going to be president again, they hold. So I took the phone down, and I'm looking at the screen. I'm seeing this crazy thing that's going around and coming down. It looks like it's going to crash into the gantry. And I said, oh, no. And I said, do me a favor, do you mind holding for a couple of minutes? I want to see this. I thought it was a space-age movie or something. I put the phone down. Bad part, I didn't pick it up for 45 minutes, and he was holding. But this spaceship came down, and I saw those engines firing, and it looked like it was over. It was going to smash, and then I saw the fire pour out from the left side, and I put it straight, and it came down so gently, and then it wrapped those arms around it, and it held it, and just like you hold your baby at night, your little baby. And it was a beautiful thing to see, and I called Elon. I said, Elon, was that you? He said, yes, it was. I said, who else can do that? Can Russia do it? No. Can China do it? No. Can the United States do it other than you? No, nobody can do that. I said, that's why I love you, Elon. That's great. And you know, when we had the tragic Hurricane Helene, and it hit North Carolina, they were really devastated, the water. This was a big water, as big as we've ever seen, water hurricane. It built lakes out of nothing. Fields became lakes, and the danger was unbelievable. And the people from North Carolina came to me and they said, would it be possible, at all possible, for you to speak to Elon Musk? We need Starlink. I said, what's Starlink? It's a form of communication. So I called Elon, and I'll tell you what, he had, and it was very dangerous. People would die. They had no communication. All the wires were down. I called Elon Musk. I said, Elon, you have something called Starlink. Is that right? Yes, I do. What the hell is it? He said, it's a communication system that's very good. I said, Elon, they need it really, really badly in North Carolina. Can you get it? He had that there so fast. It was incredible. And it was great. It saved a lot of lives. He saved a lot of lives. But he's a character. He's a special guy. He's a super genius. We have to protect our geniuses. We don't have that many of them. We have to protect our super geniuses. I want to thank some of the guys. You know, we have up here today the U.S. Open champion. He's a fantastic golfer. He's slightly longer than me. Hits the ball a little bit longer than me. Just a little bit. Bryson DeChambeau is up here someplace. What happened to Bryson? Where is he? Bryson. Oh, he was shot. He's hitting balls. Oh, he's on the way. He's hitting balls. Bryson. Oh, look at him. He's got a great career going. Great U.S. Open, Bryson. That's a fantastic job. And we also have Amanda Dana White, who has done some job. He's a tough guy. So Dana started UFC and came to me, do you mind if I use your, nobody wanted to give him a ring because they said it's a rough sport, a little rough. And I helped him out a little bit, and I went, and I said, this is the roughest sport I've ever seen, but I began to like it, and he loved it, and nobody's done a better job in sports. And you know, he's a very motivational kind of a guy, what he does. He gets these fighters, and they really go at it, and it's become one of the most successful sports enterprises anywhere at any time. It's doing so well. I'd like to ask Dana just to say a couple of words, because people love to hear from him. Dana,
please. Nobody deserves this more than him, and nobody deserves this more than his family does. This is what happens when the machine comes after you. What you've seen over the last several years, this is what it looks like. Couldn't stop him. He keeps going forward. He doesn't quit. He's the most resilient, hard-working man I've ever met in my life. His family are incredible people. This is karma, ladies and gentlemen. He deserves this. They deserve it as a family. I want to thank some people real quick. I want to thank the Nelk Boys, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, Bustin' with the Boys, and last but not least, the mighty and powerful Joe Rogan. And thank you, America. Thank you. Have a good night.
That is a piece of work. No, he's really an amazing guy. But most of all, I want to thank the millions of hardworking Americans across the nation who have always been the heart and soul of this really great movement. We've been through so much together, and today you showed up in record numbers to deliver a victory like like no other. This was something special, and we're gonna pay you back. We're gonna do the best job. We're gonna turn it around. It's got to be turned around. It's got to be turned around fast, and we're gonna turn it around. We're gonna do it in every way, with so many ways, but we're gonna do it in every way. This will forever be remembered as the day the American people regained control of their country. So I just want to say that on behalf of this great group of people, these are hard-working people. These are fantastic people, and we can add a few names like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He came in, and he's going to help make America healthy again. And now he's a great guy, and he really means it. He wants to do some things, and we're going to let him go to it. I just said, but Bobby, leave the oil to me. We have more liquid gold, oil and gas. We have more liquid gold than any country in the world, more than Saudi Arabia. We have more than Russia. Bobby, stay away from the liquid gold. Other than that, go have a good time, Bobby. We're going to be paying down debt. We're going to be reducing taxes. We can do things that nobody else can do. Nobody else is going to be able to do it. China doesn't have what we have. Nobody has what we have. But we have the greatest people also. Maybe that's the most important thing. This campaign has been so historic in so many ways. We've built the biggest, the broadest, the most unified coalition. They've never seen anything like it in all of American history. They've never seen any young and old, men and women, rural and urban. And we had them all helping us tonight. When you think, I mean, I was looking at it, I was watching it. They had some great analysis of the people that voted for us. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. They came from all quarters, union, non-union, African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, Arab American, Muslim American. We had everybody, and it was beautiful. It was a historic realignment, uniting citizens of all backgrounds around a common core of common sense. You know, we're the party of common sense. We want to have borders. We want to have security. We want to have things be good, safe. We want great education. We want a strong and powerful military, and ideally we don't have to use it. You know, we had no wars. 4 years we had no wars, except we defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS in record time. But we had no wars. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. But this is also a massive victory for democracy and for freedom. Together, we're going to unlock America's glorious destiny. We're going to achieve the most incredible future for our people. Yesterday, as I stood at my last stop on the campaign trail, I'll never be doing a rally again. Can you believe it? I think we've done 900 rallies approximately from them. Can you imagine? 901 something, a lot of rallies. And it was sad. Everybody was sad. Many people, I said, this is our last rally. But now we're going on to something that's far more important, because the rallies were used for us to be put in this position where we can really help our country. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make our country better than it ever has been. And I said that many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together. We're going to fulfill that mission. The task before us will not be easy, but I will bring every ounce of energy, spirit, and fight that I have in my soul to the job that you've entrusted to me. This is a great job. There's no job like this. This is the most important job in the world. Just as I did in my first term, we had a great first term, a great first term. I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises. Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people. We will make America safe, strong, prosperous, powerful, and free again. And I'm asking every citizen all across our land to join me in this noble and righteous endeavor. That's what it is. It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite. And we're going to try. We have to try. And it's going to happen. Success will bring us together. I've seen that. I saw that in the first term when we became more and more successful. People started coming together. Success is going to bring us together, and we are going to start by all putting America first. We have to put our country first for at least a period of time. We have to fix it. Because together we can truly make America great again for all Americans. So I want to just tell you what a great honor this is. I want to thank you. I will not let you down. America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than it has ever been before. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, Donald Trump taking a victory lap of sorts. I do not think that, as far as I know, any major news organization has declared him to be the victor, but it certainly seems that he is on his way to that point. And there he is giving a generally, as far as he goes, unifying and generous speech. He invited to speak his campaign managers, as well as Dana White, as well as his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio. Maybe I have missed something. Has anybody actually declared him? In any case,
Fox has.
Fox has. Okay. Well, in any case, he's well on his way to that point. So.
And if you notice, he did not dispute in any way the results of this election. So obviously, he is feeling more confident in it than in another scenario.
I think there was one in that long speech with all the weave. There was one key line: America has given us an unprecedented mandate. Now, it may not be unprecedented, but there's no other way you can read these election results than he has received a mandate in his personal victory, in the Senate, the Republicans taking the Senate and picking up more seats than were expected. He said that they'd taken the House. They haven't taken the House yet. Nobody has declared that. But I don't see any other way to read this than that he has a mandate to fulfill his agenda.
100%. And I think one of the things that's so significant about that is that the Democrats treated his first term as a fluke, because he lost the popular vote and won the electoral vote. And in that sense, it was to a degree, although that has certainly happened in history before. This is a sweeping victory. And John and I were going over the margin of error, even in the blue states, New Jersey and New York. He significantly shrank the partisan chasm in those states. And we have declared that the Republicans are going to take back the Senate. We do not know what's going to happen to the House, but he does have a sort of mandate without question.
Yes, and he talked in this speech about the promises that he's made, and he said he's going to keep them. And so some of the most clear promises that he has made are on the economy, very, very sharp tariffs. That have been controversial in the business world and among economists. assuming that he gets that through, assuming that that happens, we will see if that is true or whether it will help. On the immigration front, which was, since the minute he came down that escalator in 2015, a huge topic for him. This time around, he has said point blank, he is going to engage in mass deportation. We'll see how that works. We'll see just even the mechanism of that. And the other thing that I don't think we should lose sight of is that he has said very clearly multiple times that he will go after and prosecute his enemies. And how he will go about doing that, what that means for who would be his attorney general, we will have to wait and see. We also should remember that if he is the person that raises his hand and takes the oath of office January 20th, 2025, thanks to the Supreme Court, there will be far fewer guardrails, checks on him legally. That will be the law of the land, that he will be able to do a lot more. And not to mention, the federal indictments against him will almost surely disappear.
They're gone. Absolutely.
They'll disappear.
Yeah.
Yeah, he talked about putting the last 4 years behind us. Maybe those are some of the things that'll go away. And, you know, I also want to recognize something that Dana White said at the UFC, where he said this is karma. Just to hear that through the lens of his supporters, that they feel that between his convictions, impeachments, et cetera, that he has been persecuted and that this was their response to that. That was like a huge applause line in that room.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. This is a man who has been impeached twice, a man who has survived 2 assassination attempts, one of them very serious, 4 indictments, almost 100 charges, and he looks like he's going to have walked through all of it.
And he's at 34 counts, a convicted felon.
And well, when we'll see what happens on that conviction and what punishment he faces. I don't understand how a man like that couldn't feel tremendously empowered to do whatever he wants, because he has got the mandate. The system, I don't believe it was a persecution by the system or weaponization or legal, but he certainly does. And it seems to me he's going to feel they did their worst to me, and I survived it, and I thrived, and the country gave me a mandate.
I think probably there are a lot of Americans out there watching who are trying to make sense of tonight and trying to figure out why this happened. And I know that there are those who think that this is a manifestation of ugliness among their fellow Americans, that this is a vote for bigotry, and this is a vote for misogyny, or this is a vote for racism, et cetera. And I want to take a moment and just reflect on the fact that if you look at the reasons why the voters who decided this election voted the way they did, it is not because of those parts of the MAGA movement or Trump's comments in the past. It's not about vindicating Trump for the lawsuits or the criminal charges or the impeachments. The people who decided this election, the people in the battleground states who switched or who turned out, don't like the country as it is right now, mainly because of the 3 issues. And like the people like it or not, Donald Trump ran an issues-based campaign, whether or not his 2-hour stemwinder rally speeches covered all of it. It was mainly because of the economy and the beating the people are taking at the gas pump and in grocery stores, inflation, and immigration, and the fact that immigration, there is a crisis at the border. There has been for several years. The first couple of years of the Biden-Harris administration, they were in denial about it and acted as though anybody who asked about it was just reading right-wing talking points. And then also having to do with foreign policy and the standing in the world. Now, you can say, you can look at what's happening in Ukraine, and you can look at what's happening in the Middle East and all over the world and believe that Trump had something to do with it, or not believe Trump had something to do with it. But it is true that there are wars going on right now that were not going on during the Trump presidency. I'm not saying that correlation, but I want to reassure, because I know that there are people out there who are worried that this is a statement, that this vote for Donald Trump is a statement of dislike of them. And I don't think that is what people should read into the election results.
The only point of which I agree with most of what you said. The only thing I would push back on is this is a man who would get up in rallies and say, I am your retribution. This goes back to what David Axelrod said. There obviously are millions of people in this country who feel that there's an elite, an inside game, that they're looked down on. As Axelrod said, where the party, the Democratic Party, approaches them almost like missionaries, like we want to help you and make you like us. And he was in effect saying, I'm representing you against those people. I agree that a lot of it doesn't have to do with misogyny and racism, but I do think that there's we talk about one of the big dividing lines here is college-educated people versus non-college educated people. I think there is certainly a class element.
I'm not dismissing any of that. I am saying that the people who either swung their votes, changed their votes, the people who decided this election. I'm not saying all 85 million or however many people ultimately ended up voting for Donald Trump did so for one monolithic reason. I'm just saying I think that people need to think about the economic reasons first and foremost.
That's what I was just going to say, is that one of the things that I think maybe the biggest thing that Donald Trump benefited from was the fact that he had been in the White House before and the economy was better. Whether it was on him or not, the economy was better and people remembered that. And that is such a fundamental across the board for pretty much everybody who voted for him.
Let's bring in Caitlin Collins, who is at Trump campaign headquarters. Caitlin, your takeaways from what we heard from Donald Trump.
Well, Jake, I just on that conversation that y'all were just having, what I'm hearing from the Trump campaign in the last hour or so is they're looking at these numbers, is they're taking all of that and seeing what the margins are in these states that they were so worried about even as of this morning, and also looking at the popular vote right now and believing all of that is an affirmation of what they have been saying on the campaign trail for the last 2 years and what Donald Trump has been arguing about the current administration, and believing it was a message that resonated, that despite moments like the Madison Square Garden rally and all of these other moments, that there are this underlining message where all of that did not necessarily matter. And it was still essentially Kristen Holmes, what he has been arguing for 2 years on immigration or the economy, criticize the message or not, that is what came through. And I think the other thing that stood out from him being on that stage tonight was the power sources around him. Susie Wiles getting up there, she did not speak. She was the only person he called to get on stage who did not say a word into the microphone.
And actually adamantly shook her head that she wasn't going to speak.
And is maybe one of the most powerful and influential people of this campaign that was up there on that stage tonight.
Absolutely, and her name's already been floated for chief of staff. There's a lot of people around him who believe that if she wants that job, she can have it, and that she's the best person fit for it because they believe she is somebody who can keep him at least somewhat in line. Again, it's former President Donald Trump. We know that he is not somebody who can be controlled, but for the most part, Susie Wiles has done a very good job at trying to keep him in line as much as you possibly can. And one thing I just want to point out on what you were saying about those issues like immigration, crime, and the economy is that when we saw Kamala Harris ascend to the top of the ticket, there was an argument inside of the Trump campaign. They kept pushing out that it would be, if Donald Trump could beat her, it would be because they would be able to link her to the current administration and the unhappiness that Americans felt, particularly when it came to issues like immigration, crime, inflation. And they believed, they kept pushing that message, trying to drown out all the other noise, particularly the noise that comes with having Donald Trump as a candidate, somebody who is a loose cannon, somebody who says whatever. If they could drown him out with this constant messaging about the economy in particular, about crime, that they could win this election. And if that is why the American people voted, and I'm sure we're going to pour through the exit polls and pour through the data as to why, they were right during that time. And obviously we saw the enthusiasm that came with Kamala Harris's ascension, but their point during all of that was at the end of the day, if he can make the case that she is tied to the current administration, then they can make the case to win in November. And I can guarantee you, they believe and they feel very good about the fact that they stuck to that messaging. Again, Donald Trump, did not always stick to the messaging, but the campaign themselves was pushing that.
Whether it was the ads or what the surrogates were saying, that was something you saw constantly. It was a different campaign than what we'd seen in the past. Obviously, the candidate himself was the candidate. We were at the Madison Square Garden rally. But the campaign, there weren't major staff shakeups weeks before the actual race, and that was really a question of the closing message also, whether that would affect it. A lot of them, even inside the campaign, began to feel that way. Obviously today changed their perspectives, and just looking also on that stage tonight, Ivanka Trump was there with Jared Kushner. They were standing to the far right just off camera. That is, I believe, her first campaign trail appearance. She did not attend the trial in Manhattan. She was not at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. We've heard from her, but she hasn't been out on the campaign trail at all.
That's right, and actually we only saw Jared once. We saw him at Donald Trump's actual announcement just about a year ago, or 2 years ago, gosh. Time flies.
2 years ago.
2 years ago at
15th,
Mar-a-Lago, but Ivanka was not there. She made that announcement shortly before Donald Trump announced that he was going to be running, that she and Jared were going to take a step back and take care of their family, and she has largely stayed out of light. Now, after his conviction, as we talked about, she was up at Trump Tower. She never came down with him. Even when he spoke, she wasn't there. She was never seen publicly with him, and there was a lot of questions about that. You know, even he brought up on the campaign trail in the last 2 days how she was there on the campaign trail with him back in 2016 and 2020.
Yeah.
And she had largely disappeared. It was notable that she was there today. And I was speaking to somebody earlier before the Mar-a-Lago event who said they weren't even sure she was going to show up to that Mar-a-Lago watch party. Now, obviously, everything started shifting when they started seeing those numbers coming in. But she has really taken a back seat here, and it was interesting to see her on the stage.
Yeah. And Jake, obviously a moment there that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump himself summed up. J.D. Vance calling it, as he put it, the greatest political comeback ever. And Donald Trump saying that he believed that they are seeing the results that we're looking at now for a reason. Obviously, the question is what that means and what's to come.
Caitlin, thanks so much. And Anderson, it is hard to think of a political comeback that is actually more significant than this one. I'm tempted to say Richard Nixon, but that really falls short of what Donald Trump has achieved.
Yeah, I mean, winning not just the electoral votes, but the popular vote as well. Let's continue the discussion about just what this means, and obviously Democrats are going to be looking at this very closely about what it was why they didn't deliver.
Yeah, and we talked a bit about that. We should, we heard a discussion about what it was. We should talk about what it wasn't. It may have been a mandate for some of the policies around economy and immigration. There'll be battles over some aspects of that and the wisdom of some of it. But certainly he should feel like he's been affirmed on that. It wasn't a mandate to wantonly use the power of the presidency to punish his political enemies. It wasn't a mandate to help enrich himself and his friends. It wasn't a mandate to single out groups in our society for scorn or worse. I'd love to hear from Van on this, but let's be honest about this, okay? Let's be absolutely blunt about it. There were appeals to racism in this campaign, and there is racial bias in this country, and there is sexism in this country, and anybody who thinks that did not in any way impact on the outcome of this race is wrong. I'm not saying that was the main reason that Kamala Harris lost and Donald Trump won. And I think they ran honestly, strategically, his campaign, and I've said it many times, they ran a very smart campaign. It was an ultimately rational, well-conceived, and well-executed campaign for an often irrational candidate, and they overcame him to sell his message, or the message that they thought he should be selling to the country. But let's not confuse what this was and what it wasn't. Let's be very clear-eyed about it.
I think it's going to be a long time for us to figure out what it was and what it wasn't. I hope that it goes the way that you said. But I do think it's bitter in the mouth. The racial and gender dimension of this. And the only way that you can kind of begin to see it, if you don't see it right away, is can you imagine
What about her actually
a
staying?
woman of color acting like Donald Trump
I
acted,
am.
even for one day?
I'm
The kinds of
getting
stuff that he said, the
tired.
kinds of things that he did, the way that he
Surprised
would
you are
insult
standing up
people.
this too, man.
If you're a person of color, you
Thank
don't feel
you.
you have that freedom. You feel like you really are somewhat constrained. You're always running something in the back of your mind like, how am I going to be perceived? And also, if I say this, will they think that all black people are this way or all women are this way? So there's a license that he had to just be a fool, just to be an obnoxious ass to everyone. And for people to go, well,
Dude,
he
I
can still
just
be
saw our
president.
kids.
There's nobody
Yeah.
who doesn't have that phenotype that feels that free. And so I do think that what I'm hearing from people is, what do we have to do to be acceptable? I'm hearing from women of color, like, from people see things very, very differently. I just want to make sure people, like, Kamala Harris, look, she's not Oprah or Beyonce. She's not like some untouchable black woman in the popular, but she is a respectable woman, and she's somebody who served in all three branches. She served in the courts, she served in the legislature, she served in the executive branch, she served local, state, federal. She should have been qualified enough to be able to not have this sort of an outcome. And so, just give me a second now. And so then I think people, what happened last time when Trump won, everybody ran to the economic argument. The Tea Party was just people, they had economic anxiety, that's all it was. But the people with the most economic anxiety were black and brown people who at that time did not join the Tea Party. So I just don't want to take out that many things can be true at the same time.
I would just say this. Maybe you got a bad messenger and a bad message. Kamala Harris has never run an election in a state that wasn't 100% Democratic. She's been elected in the state of California her entire career. She's run as a prosecutor, she ran for AG, she ran for Senate in a blue state. So she's never had to build a coalition, she's never had to really campaign. When she ran for president the first time on her own, she tanked. She didn't get anywhere. And then so when this came about, this opportunity came about, she didn't run again. She's never been battle tested. And actually, you've said this before, running for president is a skill. Barack Obama wasn't good at it when he started.
Right.
There was no racism at it. Barack Obama got good at it. You helped him get good at it, right? And so maybe she's just a bad messenger, selling a bad product.
No, I mean, look, I think, again,
You don't think there's any validity to that?
No, I think that there are plenty of ways to critique her as a candidate. I think there'll be time to do that. I think the fundamental point, and it's been made again and again and again tonight, no one, I don't care how good a candidate you were, it's very hard when there's a 28% right track number in this country, when people have 2/3 of the country think the economy is bad, regardless of whether it is,
No, again, I'm saying not just messenger, I'm saying the message as well.
But no, but that is all true, but that doesn't obviate the fact that there were some people who probably voted against her. We've never had a woman president, that there's sexism in this country. There are people who probably voted against her because there may be some people there are clearly people who voted for her because of
Barack and Michelle Obama are some of the most admired against America.
Let me just say, though, I wonder. I worry that.
Trust me, there were plenty of people who weren't terribly happy about having him as president.
Look at the numbers.
Please stop.
No, but I think that the wrong takeaway from this would be that by running toward the center and away from some of her 2019 positions, that was a mistake, and that she should have doubled down on ultra-leftism and tried to play to the progressive base. I think this is a sweeping indictment of a progressive left that has gone so far that it alienates so much of the center of this country. There's a rural-urban divide, but there's a cultural divide where people feel left behind where part of the party, Democratic Party, is going. And I do think she was right to moderate. That's what she should have done. But she had a 3-month basically window to do that. She's somebody who was not battle tested, and she was wearing the brunt of Joe Biden in her own positions in 2019. That was a terrible position to be in.
Donald Trump on the brink of a stunning victory. Votes still coming in. We're also tracking the fight for the control of the House. A lot more ahead.
I think something's going on. Really.
Do you think I wouldn't see it?
he's going to like win.
Go in the house and take it off. Give me the spatula.
All right. Progressive can't protect you from becoming your parents,
see it.
but we can protect your home and auto when you bundle with us.
No dad jokes.
While you're hawking them, you're the strongest among us.
Without spice, the great houses would feed me to the world. The troubles are far greater than just Arrakis.
Dune Prophecy, streaming exclusively on Max. He knows that, like, she's not gonna get that.
What he was in the 90s has had a great deal to do with what he has become.
Biden won 4 points.
He is the smartest son of a who's ever done this for a living.
James was famous for winning races. James believes that change wins.
It's the economy, stupid.
I ain't apologizing to no one.
The man is a two-fisted catcher.
I am saying publicly what people are saying to themselves. I have enough money. I could just shut up.
Carver, winning is everything, stupid. Streaming starting November 14th on Max.
All There Is with Anderson Cooper. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Election coverage continues, and we've got you covered like only CNN can. Follow every result. Follow every dramatic development. Follow the facts. Follow CNN. 5 good things. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
There's only one man big enough to run this city.
I want us to suffer for what he's done.
They're taking back Gotham.
So I believe.
I know what he took from me.
Sophia's gonna come for us. Let's go!
Because I'm looking at
Oswald's called Man of the People.
Donald Trump.
How It Really Happened returns with 3 new episodes.
232 and
You guys in military uniforms come
Biden
up against the wall. They
was
the American embassy and took us hostage.
There are 6 capsules.
Oh no, it's
There are 3 people dead.
It wasn't just about tampering, it was about evil. New York City became so enthralled with this case.
Mother and son murdering people.
How It Really Happened. New episode starting Sunday, November 17th at 9 on CNN.
Every weekday morning.
Here are the 5 things you need to know to start your day.
Get the news you need
How about this for an earnings call headline?
in 5 minutes or less.
Bravo!
CNN's 5 Things with Kate Baldwin. Now streaming on Max.
all news. Max. I'm keep it on all day. CNN.
Who should be the CNN Hero of the Year? Weigh in now. Cast up to 10 votes a day every day. Visit CNNHeroes.com.
Nine, 8, 7, 6. Yeah, I'm getting on right now. Yo.
It's an historic election night with Donald Trump poised to win back the White House. Let's take a look at where the electoral vote count stands right now. Donald Trump has 266 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 195 electoral votes. The magic number, obviously, 270 needed to win. Donald Trump is 4 short of that. So let's look at the states, the battleground states that we have not called yet. Michigan, Donald Trump, 52.6%. Kamala Harris, 45.6%. Donald Trump, a 320,916 vote lead. That's with 81% of the estimated vote in from the Wolverine State. In Wisconsin, Donald Trump, 51.1%. Kamala Harris, 47.3%. Donald Trump with a 120,903 vote lead in a state with 94% of the estimated vote reported in. In Arizona, Donald Trump, 50.4%. Kamala Harris, 48.7%. Donald Trump with a 31,223 vote lead. That's with an estimated 54% of Arizona's vote reported in. Nevada, Donald Trump, 51.5%. Kamala Harris, 46.8%. Donald Trump with a 51,805 vote lead. with 76% of the estimated vote in. So, John King, what are we waiting for?
To see how bad the shellacking is. This is a shellacking for the Democrats tonight. The question is how bad. A shellacking for the vice president. Right now, we still haven't called, we haven't called Michigan or Wisconsin or the western states, Arizona and Nevada, but the former president is leading in those. The Republicans will take control of the Senate. The question is, how high do they go? And we're still waiting on control of the House, which now becomes vital. Donald Trump with the presidency and a clear majority in the Senate. Won't get to 60 votes, but 55 maybe. It's possible, maybe even higher than that. So the House comes everything. But now when you're looking at this, here's one way to score it. We're not done yet, but Donald Trump is winning the popular vote by 5.2 million votes. Another way, he's winning with more than 51% of the vote nationally as you look at this. To get to 270, to officially get there, Donald Trump, let's just sneak over here just a little bit. Either we call Wisconsin or Michigan soon, but we don't even have to get there. When Alaska comes in later, that would get him to the edge, and he wins one congressional district in Maine. So Donald Trump is knocking on the door. He's going to get there. He's going to get there. I was going to say barring this, that, or the other thing. He's going to get there. I'm probably not supposed to say that on television. We haven't projected it yet, but he's going to get there. So here's another way to score this. Excuse me for turning my back. This is where we are right now. That number could change. We have 50 states. The Republicans are winning 31-19. In a football game, if you lose like that, the coach gets together and says, what should we do differently, right? Ronald Reagan, Mr. Wallace and I were both child prodigies, so we were around, we remember this. Ronald Reagan won 49 states. In the next election, George H.W. Bush won 40 states over Michael Dukakis. And some Democratic governors, Bill Clinton in Arkansas, Jim Hunt in North Carolina, Roy Romer was out in Colorado. Some Democratic governors, Lawton Childs, believe it or not, a Democratic governor of Florida. Governors like that got together and said, we have a problem, Democrats. What are we going to do about it? This is going to be a fascinating conversation in the days ahead, because you see these three states right here, the blue wall states, right now, they're not done. It's possible the vice president picks up one of them. But right now, the math is pretty damning for her right there. Democratic governor, Democratic governor, Democratic governor. What do the Democratic governors say? Arizona right now is going Republican. We'll see what happens. Democratic governor. Where are the people going to stand up, Jake? That's my biggest question, and say, Houston, we have a problem. How do we fix it? Back in the Bill Clinton days, that was the Democratic Leadership Council. They said the party was too liberal. A lot of those conversations, you just had one at that table over there, are happening tonight. A lot of Democratic incoming tonight to me is Democrats need a new way to talk about urban America. They need a new way to talk about crime, and they need a new way to talk to counter Donald Trump's what the Democrats call fake populism. The voters today don't seem to see it that way, but the Democrats say it's fake populism. So how do we answer? Why are working class voters? Why is that happening out there, right? So that's what the messaging problem is Democrats are texting about. And when you say, well, what are they talking about? Well, this is what they're talking about. Again, Mr. Wallace and I were standing on a platform here in 1988 when Michael Dukakis rode the tank in Warren, Michigan. That's Macomb County. Donald Trump is getting 58% of the vote right now in Macomb County. Those used to be Democrats. Those are blue-collar workers who work with their hand a few miles north of Detroit. A lot of them are unionized, union members. 58% of the vote. He got 53% there 4 years ago. So in an election where Democrats are trying to pull back blue-collar working-class voters, Donald Trump took more. We're not at the final count yet, but there you see it there. And so then you come here to Oakland County. This is your more affluent suburbs. Again, when I started doing this, this was Republican territory. Just want to take a look at it. Donald Trump at 42% there in 2020. Donald Trump at 43%, just a tad better, right? Trump did well, made gains with blue-collar workers, and some of those are black workers and Latino workers, by the way. They're not all just white blue-collar workers. His suburban, this is going to take a while to analyze all of this. He seems to have inched up a little bit in the suburbs. That's enough to win. That would still be a place where Republicans look like, how do we improve after this? But when you have a map like this, let's come over to Wisconsin, right? I said earlier in the night, can the vice president do in Brown County, right? Can she narrow the margins? This is Green Bay, again, blue-collar workers. Green Bay Packers fans, 55% to 43%. Joe Biden had 45%, a little more. Again, it's a point or two, but the Democrats are heading in the wrong direction with the voters they need. Now, a lot of Democrats scoff when you come out to the national map and they see all this in the middle, and they say, well, nobody lives there, or they're the flyer of the states, or they have tiny roles in the Electoral College. I'm telling you, when the score's 31-19, it's time to have a conversation about who we're talking to and who we're losing and who won't listen to us. That's the issue there. So I just want to come down and look at a few other places as we come through this. We were talking about this earlier, Jake. Again, Joe Biden got 61% in New York State. It's a blue state, right? It's a blue state. 61% in 2020. the vice president's down to 56%, if you round it. So even in the reliably blue states, the margins are down a little bit. You can write it off if you want to one election. You can write it off to the really bad cost of living climate that you live in, but you can also say that our candidates and our message did not counter his message. Again, she's winning 96%, 52%. So call that a 5-point race, 52, 5.5, 6-point race. 4 years ago, it was a 10-point race. So even in places that are blue on this map, the margins are more narrow, which tells the Democrats you're losing 31 out of the 50 if it finishes out that way. Your margins have shrunk even in the states where you have won for years. The 3 states that made Joe Biden president there in 2020, once again, made Donald Trump president. We're not done with the counts there, but you see that down there as well. The Democrats thought their progress was going to come down in the Sun Belt. That's a lot of red. And at the moment, that's a lot of red, Jay.
All right, John, still ahead. Will Republicans hold on to the House, or will Democrats take it back? We're going to get the latest on that, plus more on Donald Trump on the verge of victory and what comes next.
Getting your finances in order isn't just about saving, it's about doing. So, what do you want to do? Whatever financial success looks like to you, Stretch Financial Wellness is here to support you while you put in the work. Visualize your success, attack your goals, go get it.
What happened to no phones at the table?
Sorry, honey, it's a work thing.
Yep, work over here too. Got a text from Alan saying your business vehicle is now protected with Progressive.
Just like your home and auto. Why'd you text it? I thought that's what we were doing.
Every weekday morning,
Here are the 5 things you need to know to start your day.
get the news you need
How about this for an earnings call headline?
in 5 minutes or less.
Bravo!
CNN's 5 Things with Kate Baldwin, now streaming on Max.
November 17th, I'm venturing across the globe to see how these new weight loss medications are transforming lives.
Ready?
It's like a new start for me, basically.
I've made a lot of progress and I can't turn back now.
And also disrupting the industry.
Am I interviewing a future Nobel Prize winner?
Please go on. Do something about it.
But are these drugs a forever fix?
These drugs are very effective, but they're not going to be for everyone.
Is Ozempic right for you? November 17th at 8 p.m. on CNN.
Grief isn't talked about much, but that's what my podcast is all about. Join me and my guests for a new season with new conversations about loss, life, and love.
All There Is with Anderson Cooper. Listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
Election coverage continues. And we've got you covered like only CNN can. Follow every result. Follow every dramatic development. Follow the facts. Follow CNN.
On the Chasing Life podcast, Dr. Sanjay Gupta goes inside the world of weight loss, the new miracle drugs, and what weight really tells us about our health. Chasing Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Valia Harkonnen, you are the strongest among us.
Without spice, the great houses would feed me to the worms. The troubles are far greater than just Arrakis.
Dune Prophecy, streaming exclusively on Max.
For 30 years, I've been saying publicly what people are saying to themselves. I have enough money. I could just shut up. But you know, I can't.
Carver, streaming starting November 14th on Max.
The world ain't set up for the honest man to succeed. America's a hustle. It'll eat you alive if you let it. Not that I'm complaining.
The Penguin, streaming exclusively on Max. 5 Good Things. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
What he was in the 90s has had a great deal to do with what he has become.
How It Really Happened. New episode starting Sunday, November 17th at 9 on CNN.
Who should be the CNN Hero of the Year? Visit CNNHeroes.com to vote.
and fight for a better day. Many of the communities that are most vulnerable and that are really afraid right now, the trans community, immigrants, people of color, even if there's polling or outcomes that are showing that some people of color voted for Donald Trump, you're worthy, you're visible, you're not alone. And so you can feel what you feel right now, but we have to do work to protect the most vulnerable. And we can and we will. And then for the people who did support Donald Trump, we've sat on this network and people have said the things that he said about retribution and about going after his enemies. That's not what he really meant. So in moments when he does that, it's your responsibility to hold him accountable and not let him do that and not let him undermine the democracy, because it is bigger than him. This is not his country. It is our country. He just happened to be most likely elected to run it for 4 years.
Scott, what do you expect the next couple months to be like once he's in?
Well, look, he has an opportunity here to try to unite the country after a huge victory. And this is a mandate. He's won the national popular vote for the first time for a Republican, for the first time since 2004. This is a big deal. This isn't backing into the office. This is a mandate to do what you said you were going to do. Get the economy working again for regular working class Americans, fix immigration, try to get crime under control, try to reduce the chaos in the world. This is a mandate from the American people to do that. I think I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids, and they feel like they have been told to just shut up when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives. I also feel like this election, as we sit here and pour over this tonight, is something of an indictment of the political information complex. I mean, we've been sitting around here for the last couple of weeks, and the story that was portrayed was not true. I mean, we were told Puerto Rico was going to change the election. Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley voters, women lying to their husbands. Before that, it was Tim Walz and the camo hats. Night after night after night, we were told all these things and gimmicks were going to somehow push Harris over the line, and we were just ignoring the fundamentals. Inflation, people feeling like that they were barely able to tread water at best. That was the fundamentals of the election. And so I think that both parties should always look at the results of an election and figure out what went right and what went wrong. But I think for all of us who cover elections and talk about elections and do this on a day-to-day basis, we have to figure out how to understand, talk to, and listen to the half of the country that rose up tonight and said, we've had enough.
I think we have to listen to everybody, actually. I think that I've been saying this whole time, I think the polls did not have it right? Like the spread in some of these battleground states are a little larger than some, not as close as we thought it was going to be. We thought we were going to be counting. I mean, it hasn't been called yet, but the likelihood that he gets to 270 is highly probable. The people who voted for Kamala Harris are struggling too. They're feeling ignored too. A Republican's pain is no greater than less than a Democratic's pain. And we have a moment now where, and I'm not saying you're doing this, we can point and be like, ha, you're the loser, I told you so. Or we can do what Donald Trump said, which I believe I have the right to feel skeptical of, that he wants to unify this country. Actions speak louder than words.
That's the opposite of what I'm saying. And I think for Van and for you and for Axe, I mean, I've been on the losing side of tough nights here and in my professional life. It's not easy to lose a race like this. One of my most crushing nights was 2012. I know it was one of your best, and one of your best because we were there in the same state together. And so I understand, and I do think that the new president has a responsibility to make the whole country feel like they can be part of a more optimistic future. I do think the way this campaign was run was basically on the Democrats thought there were enough people who hated Trump or were willing to fear him to win the race. And it turns out there's more to being president than simply not being Donald Trump in the eyes of the American people. I'm a little worried about how Democrats are going to react. They've been told Trump is a modern-day Hitler, or at least he's a fascist. And now Kamala Harris, I suspect, is going to have to wake up in the morning and concede to that person. And then she's going to have to go to the Senate and certify the election. And
which she will do.
She'll do that. And I'm a little concerned about an election in which half the country was conditioned to believe that the person who just won the national popular vote is going to be a dictator, eliminate the Constitution, and create a bloodbath, and so on and so forth. So
can I say something about that?
We have to reckon with that in the aftermath of that argument.
The thing I think is most important to remember is the people who said that he was a Hitler lover weren't Democrats. They were Republicans. People who said that he was a fascist weren't Democrats. They were Republicans who worked for him. And so it's not just these elite Democrats over here, poisoning the well. You had a pretty broad consensus from Chomsky to the Cheneys, that was very, very concerned and remains concerned. And so I think it's not just on us to stop calling names. I think it's up to him to, as Allison said, with deeds show that he's not going to be those things.
Well, you said it. Mm-hmm. It's not just the elite Democrats. It was just the elites.
I don't think
and when I look,
so you just dismiss all criticism of Trump as just elites.
I'm not dismissing it, but how do you look at these results and not conclude that the non-elite portion of this country basically said, we've had enough, and whether that was enough on the economy or enough on immigration or enough of what you did to us during COVID or enough of whatever, and so that's always been the appeal of Trump, right? Is that you all are being misled by the elites, the experts, the institutions, whatever, and so he's never going to get along with the elites, and he didn't get along with them in this election, and it looks like the people agreed with him on it.
Scott, look, I first of all, I'm always willing to be introspective about how we talk about these things and how we think about them. Polls weren't actually that wrong. I mean, you're going to look at these polls and they're going to mostly be within I think how we use polls and how we talk about polls is a discussion that we ought to have, and is whether that's how we should cover campaigns. But, you sat on this, maybe at this very table in January of 2021, and you were compelling and moving because you are someone who believes in the institutions of this democracy and in integrity and so on. The reason that people are worried and wary about Donald Trump is because of the way Donald Trump has behaved when he was president, after he was president, and during this campaign. And, how many times do we have a discussion about his message as related in his campaign ads and the kind of really disturbing things that he said about jailing his opponents and shooting his opponents and so on. It's not like people make that stuff up. It's concerning. Now, I would say to you that it's the responsibility of people who supported him to hold him as we should hold him to the commitments that he made to work on the problems of the American people and to not indulge in the kind of craziness that we sometimes heard from him.
I got to get a break. CNN's election coverage continues right after this.
What happened to no phones at the table?
Sorry, honey, it's a work thing.
Yeah, work over here too. Got a text from Alan saying your business vehicle is now protected with Progressive.
Just like your home and auto. Why'd you text it? I thought that's what we were doing.
10,000 years before the birth of Paul Atreides, we founded a sisterhood. Valga Harkonnen, you are the strongest among us.
Without spice, the great houses would feed me to the world. The troubles are far greater than just Arrakis.
Let us rid the Imperium of these witches forever.
Dune Prophecy, streaming exclusively on Max.
The world ain't set up for the honest man to succeed. America's a hustle. It'll eat you alive if you let it. Not that I'm complaining.
The Penguin, streaming exclusively on Max.
On the Chasing Life podcast, Dr. Sanjay Gupta goes inside the world of weight loss, the new miracle drugs, and what weight really tells us about our health. Chasing Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
I got big plans.
But anytime they're doing something illegal, anything can happen.
Moonshiners, rivalries blow up. Tuesday at 8 on Discovery.
November 17th, I'm venturing across the globe to see how these new weight loss medications are transforming lives.
Ready?
It's like a new start for me, basically.
I've made a lot of progress and I can't turn back now.
And also disrupting the industry.
Am I interviewing a future Nobel Prize winner?
Please go on. Do something about it.
But are these drugs a forever fix?
These drugs are very effective, but they're not going to be for everyone.
Is Ozempic right for you? November 17th at 8 p.m. on CNN.
Experience the CNN Magic Wall. Get live results, expert insights, and an immersive election experience. The Magic Wall. Find it in the CNN app today.
All right, welcome back to CNN's special live coverage election night in America. I'm John Berman in New York. And at this moment, Donald Trump looks like he is about to cap off what is an historic political comeback, dismantling the Democrats' blue wall. You can see right behind me right now, he's got 266 electoral votes, 4 short of the 270 he officially needs to win the presidency. But honestly, all signs point to that right now. Let's get over to Phil Mattingly at the Magic Wall and talk about where things stand. Trump at 266 electoral votes. We haven't officially called the race yet for Donald Trump. What yet still remains?
Yeah, let's start there. There's a lot to dig into about what's happened over the course of the last several hours, but start there in terms of he's four electoral votes away from the threshold, right? 270, and he's the next president of the United States. He's not there yet. What's outstanding? Why hasn't it been called yet? First off, we don't call races, you and me. We don't get paid to do that. What we do know is what's outstanding. And you will notice everything that's in gray are races that CNN has not called yet. Everything that's filled in has been called. And I think what's critical to know at this moment is the states that have not been called yet, that add up to 270, that are very much heading in Donald Trump's direction right now. Why we say Trump is on the brink of winning the next presidency? Well, start here. This is the state of Alaska. If it's not been called yet, 56% reporting. Donald Trump almost 15 points ahead, 14 and a half points ahead, 28,000 votes in the state of Alaska. That's a pretty substantial lead. Feels like he's on track there. The expectation was this was a state that would go into Republican hands. So what is that? That's 3 electoral votes.
That gets him to 269.
That gets him to 269. So he's looking for 1 additional electoral vote. And I want to come over here. Maine obviously breaks its electoral votes down by congressional district. One of those congressional districts right here, Trump has been favored. The expectation in forecasting was that he would win Maine's 2nd congressional district. Where does it stand right now? Donald Trump with a healthy, nearly 8-point lead with 61% reporting. Add that 1 vote to Alaska. There's your 270. and he's still leading in a number of other states as well. So what else hasn't been called here? You're thinking two other blue wall states, Michigan, Wisconsin. You're thinking Arizona. You're thinking Nevada. The biggest tell of the night is the fact New Jersey has not been called yet. If you're a Democrat, and I told you at 4 in the morning or near 4 in the morning, New Jersey still had not been called in your favor, particularly when back in 2020, Joe Biden won this by nearly 16 points. Has not been called yet. There's no expectation that Kamala Harris is going to lose New Jersey, but the fact that it hasn't been called yet tells you a lot. What also tells you a lot is we've been watching 7 battleground states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, the Blue Wall, the Sun Belt states, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. What do you notice about all 7 of those states currently?
Trump is leading in every single one, or has already been called the winner in every single one.
Exactly. And what's outstanding right now, 2 blue wall states. We'll start with Michigan, 83% reporting. Donald Trump up by 324,000 votes. These were states that were decided by tens of 20,000 votes back in 2016. Joe Biden bumped it up a little bit higher than that. That's a huge margin with 83% reporting. Swip over to Wisconsin, always the tightest of the blue wall states. Donald Trump with 96% reporting is up by 108,000
That's
votes.
a very big margin in Wisconsin, full stop.
Yeah, and if you don't believe John Berman, your mistake. However, go back into 2020. Joe Biden won this by 20,000 votes. Go back into 2016. Donald Trump won this by 22,000 votes. Where are we again in 2024? Donald Trump, with 96% reporting, is up by 108,000 votes. We haven't even gotten into Arizona and Nevada yet, which are still kind of on the early side of reporting, with Trump with decent leads there right now. All 7 of the battlegrounds, Georgia, North Carolina, called earlier in the night, looking towards, either already called or heading towards Donald Trump.
So that's where we are. A very good description of why we haven't officially called the race yet, even though every single sign there is pointing to a Trump victory. We are on the precipice of Donald Trump perhaps being declared officially the next president of the United States. Now the question is, Phil, why? What have we seen perhaps in some of these key battleground states? Let's go look at Pennsylvania, since everyone's familiar with it, that tells the story of what's happened here.
Yeah, so if you look at Pennsylvania, obviously this has been ground zero for Democrat and Republican campaigns. More than $100 million in ad spending dumped here than any other of the 7 battleground states. This was the linchpin state, that 170,000 vote lead. It's double what Joe Biden won the state by in 2020. If you want to understand why Donald Trump is where he is, why he won this state, why he flipped it back into his column, let's start here. Where are the places that he outperformed his 2020 numbers by 3% or more? That is a significant overperformance compared to the last time. And you see the area where he overperformed in kind of the eastern part of the state, that Joe Biden was able to keep the margins down. He was able to cut into Donald Trump's 2016 margins when Trump was able to defeat Hillary Clinton. These are blue-collar areas. These are areas of working-class white voters without college degrees that Democrats were able to win back behind Joe Biden in 2020. Donald Trump not only boosting his margins back up, but doing it in a major way. The other thing, and I think this has been the biggest concern, look, there were 2 theories of the case coming in to election night. The Democrats said, we have to run up huge margins in suburban areas in particular. In the state of Pennsylvania, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you're talking about the collar counties, you're talking about Allegheny County. You need to ensure that Donald Trump doesn't cut in too far into your urban areas. Polling had shown that he was making inroads with black voters. And that would balance out any of Trump's support in these smaller rural counties where he was going to run up huge margins. Let's look at the urban support here. This is Philadelphia County. This is the home of Philadelphia. 12% of the voting population is here. Biggest county in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. You look at that margin, you're saying, that's great, right? You must be doing very, very well. Let's look at what happened in 2020. She's underperforming in those urban counties. Now let's push out into those collar counties. This is Montgomery County. This is where Joe Biden blew out the margins back in 2020, winning by more than 26 points. Underperforming. Bucks County. This was a county Joe Biden flipped in 2020. Won it by 4 points. Harris actually losing the county. And that's the case up and down the Democratic strongholds, not just in Pennsylvania, but kind of throughout the blue wall.
Before, you were showing where Donald Trump's overperforming by 3 points or greater in all these counties in Pennsylvania. I think it's important to note he's overperforming almost everywhere in Pennsylvania, but by less than 3 points. I mean, that's in Philadelphia and Montgomery County. Everywhere he's doing better.
And that leads into kind of what I was getting at initially, which was there was a theory of the case on the Trump side, which was hold down Joe Biden's margin in their strongholds, maybe cut into them, particularly in the bigger cities, in the urban population centers. But then in your strongholds, places like Butler County, obviously everybody familiar with it. It's where the first assassination attempt took place. 65.9% to 33.3%, 99% reporting. What happened in 2020? He's around there. He's kind of matching up with it. You move over into Beaver County, at 58% back in 2020. What's he doing this time around? Bumping it up. So he's going 1%, 2%, 3% throughout the course of those places that you knew Trump was going to win. It was just a matter of how much. I do want to take one step back, though, because this is not a blue wall story. This is not a Sun Belt story. This is not a western part of the country story. If you pull up every single county in the country, you've got more than 3,000 counties in the country, and you show where Donald Trump has outperformed his 2020 results by 3% or more.
That's a lot of counties.
Look at all the counties. And these counties are not just in white working class communities without a college degree. This is up in New York. This is the reason that New Jersey hasn't been called yet. This is down in Florida. This is in the border of the Texas region. This is out west as well. This is the window. This isn't a one segment, a one slice type of victory. This is a sweeping victory and a sweeping comeback.
And we will note at this moment, Donald Trump leads the popular vote by 4% as well. Phil Mattingly, we have a lot of time to talk about all this. We're going to keep on digging into the numbers. We're getting new results in. CNN has been studying the numbers all night. We have assembled the best team in the business. We will talk about the American electorate and piece together the puzzle that has really created an incredible night here. CNN special live coverage continues after this.
Don't let John King have all the fun. Experience the CNN Magic Wall in the palm of your hand. Get live results, expert insights, and an immersive election experience. The Magic Wall. Find it in the CNN app today.
The Rooms to Go Veterans Day sale is going on now. So save big on the furniture you want. Get huge savings for every room of your home. With living rooms on sale, bedrooms on sale, and dining rooms on sale now. And it's about to get even better with 50-month interest-free financing. That's right. At Rooms to Go, you get both. Amazing sale prices and interest-free financing for 50 months. Don't wait. Shop the Rooms to Go Veterans Day sale going on now.
Valya Harkonnen, you are the strongest among us.
Without spice, the great houses would feed me to the world. The troubles are far greater than just Arrakis.
Dune Prophecy, streaming exclusively on Max.
Jenna likes to win. So when she couldn't lose weight, she came to us for access to GLP-1 medication. It's the only thing that curbed her cravings and quieted her food noise. Now she's lost almost 20% of her weight in a year with diet and exercise.
Now that's a win.
We got you, Jenna. Connect with the provider at ro.co/TV.
Get the life back. Okay. Good. He's breathing. Okay.
When I saw that Ethan was not breathing, I determined that I needed to use something to remove the obstruction from his airway.
It's very important for every household to have a life vest.
Everyone should have one in their home. Anything can happen at any moment.
I want my friends and family and people that I serve to know that we have this device to potentially save lives.
Protect your family. Go to lifevac.net.
Go to lifevac.net or call 877-LIFEVAC.
When I found out I was going to be a parent, I immediately felt a lot of anxiety and worry. So I went on to BetterHelp to try to look for a therapist to help me with that.
My relationship with my family and with my boyfriend and with myself were suffering. I really needed help.
I was ruminating a lot. Really getting those thoughts out to a therapist and getting feedback was just life-changing.
What took you all so long?
I'll give you this brand new electric vehicle if you can prove to me you know your finances. How many subscriptions are you paying for?
Just 3.
You sure? Let's download the Rocket Money app right now and see if you're right. It's actually 21 subscriptions, which is costing you around $370 a month.
And the app is telling you all this?
Rocket Money shows you all your expenses in one place and even helps you suggest a budget based on your past spending. Don't worry about the 21 subscriptions. You can cancel them right within the app. It'll even try and get you some of your money back.
All right, right now the map tells the story. We are well into the morning here in New York, and there is much more red than blue. Much. Welcome to CNN Special Live Coverage Election Night in America. I'm John Berman, and if you're just tuning in, Donald Trump appears poised to become the 47th president of the United States, taking a wrecking ball to the so-called blue wall states that the Harris team thought was its best path to the White House. A couple of caveats right off the top. There is still vote to count. CNN has not yet projected some of the critical battleground states and a couple others that will formally decide the presidency, but that does increasingly look like a formality. Donald Trump is just short of the 270 electoral votes he needs to win. You can see he's at 266 right now, but three big battlegrounds, North Carolina, Georgia, and Pennsylvania, have all gone for Trump. In the remaining four battlegrounds, Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin, Trump leads in all of them. The vote left to count is quickly shrinking. And the takeaway seems to be that the electorate is mad as hell, and tonight they're sending a message that they will not take it anymore. The economy mattered most to voters. Everything else that mattered did not matter nearly as much. January 6th, immigration, abortion, the chaos of the final few weeks, the bizarre behavior, the offensive, often racist, sexist musings of Donald Trump seem not to have mattered, at least not as much. Crucially, we are also seeing what could very well be a political realignment. According to the exit polls, the Democratic coalition of the working class, black men, Latinos, white women, who all helped propel Joe Biden to the White House 4 years ago, they are now offering Donald Trump a ladder to power. Just a short time ago, Trump spoke to his supporters in Florida and made a nod to unifying the country.
We're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country.
All right, as we said, some key states have not been officially called, so stand by for a key race alert. All right, we are waiting still for the official calls from Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin. You can see where the result stands right now in Arizona with 11 electoral votes up for grabs. Donald Trump with a 48,000 vote lead at this point, 55% of the vote in. But again, he is ahead there by 2.5 points. In Nevada, 6 electoral votes up for stake. Donald Trump ahead by some 57,000 votes there, almost 5%. That's with 88% in. Again, both Arizona and Nevada were states that Joe Biden won 4 years ago. If these results hold, they would be flips for Donald Trump. The same is true in Michigan with 15 electoral votes. Donald Trump there up by 230,000 votes with 86% in. This was a state Joe Biden won by more than 100,000 votes. So a major flip perhaps in store in Michigan. Finally, in Wisconsin with 10 electoral votes, Donald Trump ahead by more than 107,000 votes at this point. Wisconsin's a state that's always very close, within 10, 20, 30,000 votes in elections since the year 2000. That 107,000 vote lead with 96% in seems very large, although we are still waiting for a few more votes to be counted there before we have an official call. Let's take a look at what that means as far as the electoral map. Donald Trump has 266 electoral votes at this point. He only needs 270 to win. So he is a state or two away at this point from the official call that he will be the 47th president of the United States. Vice President Kamala Harris currently at 205 electoral votes. Again, no official call just yet, but it does seem very close, perhaps even inevitable. Let's go over to Phil Mattingly now at the Magic Wall. Let's talk about where we haven't called. Some of these states we're talking about right now. Michigan, Wisconsin, let's start there.
We'll start there. The two blue wall states that have not been called yet, Donald Trump's lead substantial in the state of Michigan, 231,000 votes with 86% reporting. And I think you go into the state of Michigan, particularly after the last two cycles, and you know where the Democratic strongholds are. You know where Donald Trump needs to do well. Let's start with one of those Democratic strongholds. That's right here, Wayne County. This is actually where a ton of vote is still outstanding. We're going to have to wait and see how that all breaks down. But I can tell you right now, if it looks anything like the current margin, like the current separation between the vice president and Donald Trump, That explains a lot about what's happening here, because this is the largest county in the state. 17.6% of the voting population lives in this state. That margin, you're saying, 29 points, that's a great sign if you're the Harris campaign. It's not when you look at what Joe Biden's margin was, at 5 points. And these aren't just Democratic strongholds. These are critical vote drivers in these states. We see it in Milwaukee and Wisconsin. We see it in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. You see it right here in Wayne. But the other issue, move up here to Oakland County. This is the suburbs. This is one of those areas that Democrats have moved heavily into, taken control of, and really started to turn out major vote over the course of the last couple of cycles. This county, back in 2020, Joe Biden won it by 14 points, a little more than 14 points. Kamala Harris underperforming. So the theory of the case from the Harris campaign is you run up your margins in those critical urban areas that you always run up big margins in, and then you blow out your margins in the suburbs, the places like Oakland County. That's how you hold down Donald Trump's gains in his strongholds, those rural counties. Smaller, but they add up if you add 2, 3, 4 points to what he did in 2020. In the suburbs, in the urban areas, in the biggest counties, and the biggest vote drivers in the state of Michigan, that just simply has not happened yet. And if you want to know where Donald Trump has been overperforming in this state, these are the places, the counties where he's overperforming by 3% or more. This isn't overperforming by a vote. This is overperforming by a substantial margin, 3% or more. One of them, Wayne County.
That is big.
Move over. What's Washtenaw County? Washtenaw County is the home of Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor is not a conservative place, and I say that even as an Ohio State fan. It's not a judgmental statement in any way. But back in 2020, Joe Biden won this county by 46.5 points. Right now, Kamala Harris is just underperforming, and whether that has to do with the Gaza issue, which is something that was very critical in Michigan, whether it has to do with students not turning out, when you move back over into Wayne County, whether this is about the African-American vote or second largest city in Wayne County, it's Dearborn, which has the largest Arab-American population in the state.
All right, we'll let you go back to crunching the numbers, Phil, taking a look at some of these other states. In the meantime, I'm going to come over here and talk to Harry Enton. Harry, you've got some of the exit polling.
Yes, sir.
You've got the story behind the story from what we've seen all night and into the morning.
Yeah, it's exactly right, John. Look, before the election, we were talking about potentially historic realignment in the electorate. It has borne itself out in the exit polls. We can start off with Latino voters. Look, Kamala Harris is leading among Latino voters by 8 points. I went back through the exit polls. There have been exit polls since 1972. No Democrat has had such a small lead as Kamala Harris has right now in the history of the exit polls. The smallest such margin was back in 2004 when George W. Bush won Latino voters by 9 points. Kamala Harris is just winning them by 8 points at this point. Now, we can also talk about Asian voters as well. What do we see among Asian voters? Look, Kamala Harris is leading among them by 18 points. You have to go all the way back since 2004 to find a Democrat performing as poorly among Asian voters as Kamala Harris is right now. What about voters under the age of 30? This is another group in which Donald Trump is excelling for a Republican candidate. What do we see here? We see Kamala Harris up by 13 points, significantly worse than Joe Biden did 4 years ago. In fact, you have to go all the way back since George W. Bush days once again to find a Democrat performing that poorly among voters under the age of 30. If Donald Trump's first victory in 2016 was about winning white working class voters, this victory in 2024 was about going into normally Democratic bastions and taking those voters that a lot of folks never thought he could potentially do and winning them tonight in historic fashion, John.
All right, Harry, thank you very much. I want to bring in my panel of political experts. Mark Preston is here and Professor Leah Wright Rigueur. Mark, the story here is pretty obvious to see. Donald Trump is doing better almost everywhere, and in some cases with almost everyone.
Yeah, and really, I think back to the idea of the Reagan Democrat, and could which was basically Democrats who live in the Midwest, and could the Democratic Party ever come back and get them, and there's been a lot of talk over the past decade or so. Well, clearly they're gone. I mean, they are absolutely gone. And I also think that the idea that the Democratic Party is this party that is immediately going to have any kind of immigrant come and support them is kind of gone as well. We've seen that with Latino voters now that are not, first of all, they're not monolithic, one, and two, they're not necessarily beholden to the Democratic Party. So talk about just a realignment across the board.
And Professor, again, I just big picture, take several steps back. We got a guy who was
famous for winning races. James believes that change wins.
It's the economy, stupid.
I ain't apologizing to no one.
The man is a two-fisted catcher.
I am saying publicly what people are saying to themselves. I have enough money. I could just shut up.
Carver, winning is everything, stupid. Streaming starting November 14th on Max.
What he was in the 90s has had a great deal to do with what he has become.
Grief isn't talked about much, but that's what my podcast is all about. Join me and my guests for a new season with new conversations about loss, life, and love.
All There Is with Anderson Cooper. Listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. How It Really Happened returns with 3 new episodes. How It Really Happened. New episodes starting Sunday, November 17th at 9 on CNN.
Every weekday morning.
Here are the 5 things you need to know to start your day.
Get the news you need.
How about this for an earnings call headline?
In 5 minutes or less.
Bravo!
CNN's 5 Things with Kate Baldwin. Now streaming on Max.
All right, welcome back to Election Night in America. I'm Casey Hunt in New York. Look, sometimes we overuse the word, but we truly did just watch an unprecedented political comeback for Donald Trump. The former president seems poised to cross the 270 electoral college threshold. He holds leads in all the important battleground states that CNN has yet to project. CNN's Elena Treen is at Trump HQ down in Florida. Elena, of course, a celebratory mood there tonight. Tell us what you're learning, what you're hearing at this hour.
Yeah, well, I think this will come as no surprise to you, Casey, but when I'm talking to Donald Trump's advisors, his allies, those close to the former president, they obviously say that they're excited, they're enthusiastic about where he is right now, but they also say there is a sense of relief. And I tell you that because going into Tuesday, they did not anticipate what we are seeing. Obviously, we have not yet called the race for Donald Trump, but he is well on his way to securing that necessary 270 electoral college votes. But they had really thought that this was going to be dragged out for longer. They thought this race was going to be much closer, particularly in those key battleground states, than ultimately what we saw unfold overnight. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about what we heard Donald Trump say moments really ago when he took to that stage at the convention center here in Palm Beach, his election night watch party, and gave a speech. First of all, I will say, as someone who has covered Donald Trump for several years, that as far as his speeches go, I would argue that was one of the more unifying types of remarks that we've heard from the former president. He talked about wanting to heal the country. He did declare victory, even though, like I said, we have not yet projected it. But I will say, I think at that point, Fox News had called the race for Donald Trump. But he also mentioned one key thing, which I think is so important, and this is what I'm also picking up on, is that we saw that Republicans won the Senate. Donald Trump called that a mandate. He said he was given a mandate from the votes, but also looking ahead to having a Republican Senate if he is in office. I think that was a key thing that he had mentioned while walking through some of the top priorities that he wants in a future administration. So all in all, a good night for Donald Trump's campaign. They've returned to Mar-a-Lago. I think we're going to hear some more conversations unfolding over the next 24 hours or so as they look ahead to what this exactly means for the former president as well as his campaign. Yeah, well, Elena, what is your sense, too, of how they're thinking about a potential, or it's almost not potential anymore because they're poised to do it. We have yet to call it, but the second Trump administration, who they're going to put in those posts, obviously Elon Musk, someone who has been a huge part of the Trump campaign. What are you hearing? Already, Casey, that jockeying has begun. One thing I would keep in mind with this is that so far, at at this point, a presidential candidate, one of the nominees, you normally have an official transition process underway. Donald Trump does have a transition team, but they have not gone through some of the more official channels for how that should operate, including working with the Biden administration on some of that process. All to say, that is because Donald Trump is very superstitious. He did not want to have serious conversations before Election Day about who would fill top cabinet positions and key administrative roles. However, we are told, and this is also according to some reporting from my colleague and I, Kristen Holmes, you know, some people have been calling Donald Trump over the last few hours now and calling top aides to him saying, you know, trying to feel out the sense of what possibilities there could be for them in a future administration, in this expected administration. And so we're already starting to see some of that take shape. It's very early on, and I will tell you, Donald Trump, as far as, you know, presidential candidates go, he is far behind that process than what we would see normally for a Republican nominee and someone who had just essentially won the election. Casey?
All right, Elena Treen for us. Elena, I know you're going to be there for us throughout the night, so thank you. All right.